your sports shows, updates, and interviews. The only way is the right way, I might say. Nobody doing it better, y'all some lightweights. Malik Wright, up all day and all night, pushing all the buttons up to something till it's alright. He looking at it from all sides and angles, got a stripes on his body like he played for the Bengals. Oh man, there's no one discussing it. They came, they stayed, they either did it or done it. Man, I love it, cause all they ever do is win. So kick back, relax, the TWSN.
Shout out Young Swish.
Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of State of the Jungle with Malik Wright, presented by TWSN. I'm your host, Malik Wright, joined by my co-host as always. We've got Daniel Alameda, we've got Logan Fulmer, we've got Evan McPhillips, we got Jimmy on the ones and twos, and we've got a jam-packed show. Before we jump into it, like we always do, make sure you guys do us a huge favor. Give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys never miss when we go live or when we upload content from the TWSN studios. Boys, this is my favorite time of year.
Best time of year.
It's my favorite time of year because it's when the boys get together and you know what? We do War Room. I like to think that we've sort of revolutionized draft content for Bengals fans. But honestly speaking, I like to, in saying that, I think this is impossible without them. So I appreciate y'all for tuning in and making, this Wednesday show a part of your routine. But it is our favorite time of the year.
Yes, sir.
It is War Room. It's when me and Evan go head to head and we disagree on our favorite prospects. It's when Logan throws a chair at Danny King. But it's when Logan puts his football knowledge to the test, right? Because nobody truly evaluates film quite like Logan Fulmer does year round. This is where Logan might find a linebacker that's going to get drafted in the 7th round out of the University of Washington. This is where Daniel might stand on the table for a ball-hawking corner out of Cal. We have no idea, but one thing's for sure, two things to be certain. This show, War Room, is always, always, always special. And boys, without further ado, I wanted to first and foremost ask you, are you guys excited for it? Daniel, are you excited for it?
Man, I'm pumped up. We got ourselves the new little setup here. We got our big board up here. I'm excited, man. And it seems like people, in the chat, people on social media have been excited for this. And like I said, this is kind of the show and the room that everybody gets to put their GM caps on. And I'm excited just to honestly hear your guys' thoughts because we've been diving into the film and now's the time to kind of go out there and make our picks. So I'm ready, man.
This is a special show for me, bro.
Yeah.
This is the first time we've done State of the Jungle War Room with the TWSN logo.
Yeah.
That's pretty sick. That's
Feels
pretty
good,
cool, man. And there's so many things that I wanted to bring to Cincinnati from a draft party that I wasn't able to do. Obviously, other people have went on to do. But I was able to bring the War Room and keep the War Room to us. And that really, really, really means a lot to me. I appreciate that you guys were all excited about it. And the cool thing about this show, too, is we're going to do a little different this year. Not for every pick, but for certain picks. We're going to have you guys, join in on the discussion. I think we're going to have a little poll going, right, Jimmy?
Yeah.
So I'm pretty pumped up about this show. I'm pretty pumped up to talk about it. So without further ado, you ready, Dan?
Oh, I'm ready, man.
All right,
ready.
well,
let's get up to the big
I guess we should say the 2025 NFL draft is open, and your Cincinnati Bengals have the 17th overall pick.
Now, while we get this kicked off here, I want to clarify right now. Are we going to be drafting with our thoughts in mind, or are we going to be drafting with Bengals thoughts in mind? Particularly when it comes to player specifics, when it comes to measurables.
Everyone.
I'm a semantics guy.
I know you're a semantics guy. But listen,
you got to hammer it out.
Every War Room episode is going to be different.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's leave the boring stuff for the last episode. If there's a guy that you want to stand on the table for, I promise I won't talk this much this year. I won't be so aggressive and overstep. I'm not the GM anymore. I got demoted. I got demoted because I made a pick in the 2nd round last year. Remember? Wide receiver Jermaine Burton out of Alabama. And everybody killed me for it. But it's okay. It's okay. I got demoted. I'm in my Howie Roseman era when he got demoted as the GM of the year.
Yeah, that's back. You got to bounce back. I think that's also an important point to bring up with him and T'Vondre Sweat. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm until we get closer to the draft and we get stuff more hammered out. Right now, there's a lot of rumors flying around about like this or that, and I'm not going to drop guys 2 or 3 rounds because of just rumors right now. When we get more substantiated stuff closer to the draft, when the beast comes out, like all those things, like we'll get more concrete examples of like what's going on with medicals or anything else. But I'm not going to drop like James Pierce to pick 50 because, you know, someone said he's going to fall out of the first round and they don't see him going in the first anymore. Like, I just don't, I'm not buying that right now. So just putting that out there right now.
All right. And if you guys want me to stop at any point,
stop.
Oh.
So first pick, let's see. Travis Hunter. I don't like this already.
Yeah.
Already off the bat, this is a screwed up draft.
It is.
Mason Graham goes 3 to the Giants.
Well,
Ted McMillan goes
that's a
to
good
the
pick.
Peach. That's a good pick.
I was going to say.
Raiders going to get
Memphis
Cam
been
Ward.
moving up the board too.
Jets.
Actually, I can see that. That's such a Pete Carroll pick.
Cam Ward to the Jets.
The Jets. I mean, honestly, if he
hey.
fell,
Well, yeah, but he's probably not.
Another weapon for Bryce Young. Jahan Campbell going early.
Had labrum surgery.
Oh, Michael Williams. Thank the Lord. I don't want to have to talk
Campbell.
through that one.
John A. Barron.
Mike Green goes to the Dolphins at 13.
Wow.
So wait, let's pause on this for a second. The Mike Green goes off the board to the Dolphins at 13. That's something that you could realistically see happening, but also that's a Bengals target, right? That's somebody that we're penciling in for the Cincinnati Bengals that we're like, you know what, man, that was a guy that we thought could make sense, that probably could be the pass rusher of the future for Cincinnati, albeit has off the field concerns, and the concerns are very real. How do we feel about that? Mike Green going off the board. That's one thing I want to do different this year. I want to kind of talk through some of these picks.
I'll start off. I think for me, I don't want to say I'm a little relieved. I'm a little relieved. I like Mike Green. Don't get me wrong. I think the Mike Green love has probably gotten a little out of hand. Me and Daniel were on him very early in the cycle, and he's a very good football player. I don't want to act like he's not at all, because he has. The off the field issues are a real major thing. The on the field stuff is good, but when you're taking a smaller school guy at 13, it's just hard for me to justify that versus guys who played in the SEC that have ultimately the same production, no off the field issues, played against elite competition. I'd be happy with Mike Green at 17. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like there's safer bets than Mike Green.
Yeah, I think Mike Green, I'm a huge fan of him. The question marks are, if he's at 17, are the Bengals going to change their ways about going after a smaller pass rusher as well as a guy who does have quote unquote character concerns? I think at this point, you're kind of looking at it and maybe you're happy that question mark you don't even have to answer. So for him to be one of the first edges off the board, I'd actually be kind of shocked if he went to the Dolphins, but I think that he has a talent where a team could realistically, take him this. I mean, the dude led the entire nation in sacks. So he's a guy where I wouldn't be shocked. All it takes is one team. And I wouldn't be shocked if a team says, hey, we watched the film, we talked to this guy, we're confident in the person he is. He's got all the tools to be a superstar. And I truly think when you turn on the tape, the dude can be a superstar, and he showed it at the college level. But
yeah, I agree. That's the guy I was basically thinking about when I was asking, like, hey, outside of Bengals measurables, because he would definitely be outside of the norm for what they draft at the edge position, right? But yeah, very talented player, good against the run, good against the pass, but the level of competition concerns plus the off field definitely makes it a question.
Let me just say this, brother. First of all, I was looking at this board. This is disgusting on the Falcons' part. Drafting Emeka Egbuka at 15 should be a war crime. But outside of that, I want to say thank you to the Arizona Cardinals. Thank you to the Arizona Cardinals.
Clap it up.
Thank you to the Arizona Cardinals. We appreciate you are the real MVP. I understand he has the measurables. He has but where's the production? This is a guy that has bust written all over it for me personally. I listen, at some point you got all the measurables you want, but at some point you need to actually show it on the football field. And I get it. He might turn out to be a great pro and I might be kicking myself, but that's a chance that I'm willing to take, because if I'm going to spend a first round pick on you, I want it to be as close as a short thing. But the fact of the matter is, guys, what we don't talk about, we're putting on the Bengals GM caps, right? Or the Bengals front office caps with the small scouting department. We can't afford to take a project player. We can't afford to. So seeing Shamar Stewart go off the board here, it makes me smile. Let the Cardinals get him. Let him get the guy that has the Myles Garrett build and the intangibles and all this stuff like that with the less than stellar Myles Garrett production. So I'm okay with that. So Cardinals, thank you, because who knows what might have happened if we got to 17 and he was still on the board. But boys, we are at 17. We're at 17. And you know what? Usually this is where I talk a lot. Logan, I want you to make your case where you want. Daniel, make your case where you want. Evan.
Yep.
Yeah, all right, I'm gonna kick it off again. For me, it's a two-man race here, and it's still. I mean, I don't want to say it's not a race because I still think there's two people that should heavily be considered, but it's James Pierce Jr. and Malachi Starks for me. The conversation doesn't really even shift anywhere else to me at all. That's how high I am on both of these players. I just think in general, it's just got to be James Pierce Jr. Like, I don't think there's too much that tells you not to do that. James Pierce Jr. is an amazing passer. Yes, he's a little small. Yes, he's a little different, but the Bengals need a pass rusher. They need somebody who can specialize in getting to the quarterback, and that's what James Pierce Jr. has done his whole life. It's just a guy that's so athletic, a guy that can just win in so many different ways, athletically, around the edge, through you. Just there's so many ways that James Pierce Jr. can affect the game and then get to the quarterback, and that's all that the Bengals need. Yes, maybe his run defense won't be great, even though he graded out fine there every year, but still, he's a little small. You might have to get a little creative with him, how you use him on the early downs, but in general, he has never not been an elite pass rusher. That has never been a question with him, and it will never, ever be a question with him. He is going to get to the quarterback. He is going to sack the quarterback. He is going to make plays in the game. If you want to bring up, some of the issues with how he's going to play in the run game, maybe he's a little smaller, maybe the size and how he's going to fit with the Bengals directly, whatever. I don't care. He gets to the quarterback at honestly the best rate out of anybody outside of Abdul Carter, and it's just somebody I don't really think anybody can pass up on him.
Yeah, no, I when I think about this from where we were just a couple weeks ago, when we talked about how dire of a need you had at defensive tackle, I think if we're looking at it very plainly, you're not satisfied with it, but you can make the argument that you have 2 starters and 2 backups, right? You at least have a rotation. You don't feel great about it. You definitely want to add to it, but I don't know how you can look at the edge position right now and say, with Trey Hendrickson up in the air, even though we're hopeful that he returns, with Sam Hubbard no longer being around, you can't count on Miles Murphy. Cam Sample is coming off the injury. There's a lot of question marks surrounding the edge position. So I can't even tell you who the other starter would be opposite of Trey Hendrickson, let alone who the following backups would be. So that's where I look at, like you said, James Pierce Jr. Yeah, you can kind of nitpick his game a little bit and say, yeah, he doesn't always maybe hold contain well, can get a little bit over aggressive sometimes, but he's extremely explosive. I know some people say that he kind of guesses the snap count sometimes, and that kind of aids him a little bit, but that is a skill, right? Is having that feel for the game. And if that is something you can do, that's something you can do, right? So I think that's something worth considering. And even though we're talking about the run defense, you need the pass rush juice right now, right?
Absolutely.
You can find quality run defenders. You can make up for that beef by getting guys like DJ Reader, those style of guys, and kind of insulating the interior of that line. You can find ways to beef up your run defense, but you really need a potentially deadly pass rusher. He's looking at 6'4", like 245, 250 right now. Yeah. Again, if you're the Bengals, you have to be comfortable kind of dipping out of that weight class, because if you're talking about a Nick Skirton or a Landon Jackson or a Jack Sawyer, I'm just saying this is way too early.
Okay. And you like Nick Skirton as a prospect? I like him as a prospect.
I do. So I think when you're talking about him versus guys like Donovan Azarik, I'm going to work on Azaraku, thank you, who had an excellent combine, who came in at a higher weight than most people expected. Long arms, 34 inches, right? 34 and a half. So like can absolutely just give guys absolute fits on the edge, and is an absolute problem. Anytime you run into a guy who's a power kind of guy like an Orlando Brown Jr., right? You could just give him fits all day with those kind of matchups. That would be kind of the tier that I would put him in. I think he's a higher floor guy, Skirton is. I think I love the floor that he is right now, but I don't see, without the necessarily elite athletic traits, without the elite pass rush production, because he's lacking that production profile, lacking all of those things. I don't know how I can sit here and say that I would justify this early of a pick, unless you're just really chasing that floor. I see him as kind of being that like 6 sack, 8 sack guy, maybe at his best. And that's not to say he'd be a bad player, but he'd be a lot more kind of pressures and kind of solid.
So, I think for me, and you make great points, I think how I kind of view this, I think Ezraku and Nick Skirton, for me, I think 17 is a little high for them. I think they're both in the same class. Personally, I can see both these guys being 12, 13 sack guys. And Skirton in particular, he transferred from Purdue and he looked like an absolute beast. And he spoke about this at the combine. He said, this year I played at 280. He weighed in at the combine at like 255. So
and 4 inches shorter.
If we like these two guys, I think that there's a clear discrepancy between these two and James Pierce Jr. And if we talk about something the Bengals should value, a pure get-off, a guy who can just get after the quarterback, a guy who, you mentioned it, it may seem like he's jumping the snap, but you look at all the great, speed rushers, it looks like that. You look at, whether it was Chop Robinson in last year's draft or time and time again, I think there's a clear level between these two. And my concern, if we don't go James Pierce Jr., is these guys are going to be off the board. Potentially Princely's going to be off the board, and we're having to rely on a Jack Sawyer. We're going to having to rely on a Jared Ivey. These guys who are good pass rushers, but they don't have the all-around straight-up production and pure player profile. So I think if you're talking about edge rushers, it really is James Pierce Jr., or you're going to have to wait. So the other guys, real quick, I guess, to get you guys' thoughts, it's a Walter Nolan conversation.
I mean,
right?
that too, but
I should have brought him up.
I also think Kenneth Grant is a fair conversation here. I understand gravitating more to Nolan as kind of that gap shooter, that disruptor, a guy who's ascending and has shown, and absolutely more of that style of need. But I definitely think that those would be good options. I also want to say that, like, because of the bringing back of BJ Hill, because of the additions they've made, I don't love it, but it does make me feel more that edge is a dire need, and that puts James Pierce just a little bit ahead of Walter Nolan for me.
And one last thing real quick, Malachi Starks is one that a lot of people are talking about.
Love Starks.
For me, when I see him, I saw a guy who I liked what he, brought to the table as a slot guy, as a nickel corner. I also liked what he, brought to the table as a deep safety. It's just weird this year, and I'm not trying to disrespect him. It doesn't seem like he flies around the field as a deep safety. That's what I saw. I saw a guy who was in the right place at the right time, and obviously his production this year in terms of interceptions wasn't there. I think he's a do-it-all safety. I think the dude can cover, man-to-man. He showed against Texas he could do it. I just think it's a little rich because when we talk about safeties, in my opinion, the guys who deserve to go this high are Kyle Hamilton's, are Minkah Fitzpatrick's, and he's a 5-star recruit. He's an athlete. I just didn't see the quote-unquote superstar that makes me say, hey, I need him over James Pierce Jr. So for me, as I look at it, I think it is really a James Pierce Jr. Conversation.
So I appreciate everyone's feedback. I think we got a poll going, right, Jimmy?
Yeah.
We have a poll going right now. I want to give people's opinions on things. We can end it right there to see what people's overall thoughts were, Jimmy, on that. But I think I want to give my take on some things.
Yeah.
James Pierce Jr. is the overwhelming favorite here, 48%. Walter Nolan, 38%. Malachi Stark, 6%. Other at 6%. 49 votes. We appreciate everybody, our scouting team, for pitching in. The one thing I'll say here is, man, I do think we should look at what the two trades are, just to see briefly. I'm just curious because I think it's always important to listen.
I did think Daniel made a good point too about the
Colts
safety,
and Dolphins.
because
Colts,
safety is one of those positions you can
Yeah,
find later
not
in the
interested.
draft.
Colts and Dolphins are the two teams that were interested. I'm good. I'm good here. Yeah. I just wanted to see what the two trades were before we jump into it. Let me just talk about this really quickly. I think that when you get to the draft, especially this point in the process, it's easy to be like, you know what? Look at all the names that are here. Look at a Luther Bird and look at a Malachi Starks, because the season is long. And then the off seasons feels like it's even longer. So it's easy to sort of forget the issues that plagued us. It's easy to look at and say, hey, you know what? We signed Joseph Ossai back, and Joseph Ossai is going to build off of that 5.5 sack performance that he had the last 7 games. It's all easy to say that. But when we really, really look at it, what were the Bengals in on at the trade deadline? Pass rush help. What have the Bengals been literally hoping for, longing for after Trey Hendrickson? Pass rush help. If Trey Hendrickson goes down for the Cincinnati Bengals, what does the pass rush look like? That is the question that we have to ask ourselves. I do not mean to live in a feared reality, but it's a true reality we have to ask ourselves.
Have a plan.
Now, I'm not going to sit up here and say, there are parts of James Pierce Jr. game that doesn't scare me. There are. The hands need work. The playing work needs work. Can he play as an every down lineman with his hands in the dirt at the NFL level? Can he do those things? These are questions that you have to ask yourself.
Yes.
But when we talk about the production, when we talk about the upside, it is hard for me to sit here and deny what James Pierce Jr. would bring to a football team. For me, when you look at it, I think coming out of his class, I don't know if we would say Trey Hendrickson would fit in the AFC North, but look what he did. Look what he's been doing. 17.5 sacks back-to-back. And when I look at it and I'm evaluating who are the pass rushers that are available that will allow Trey to even get more sacks, well, guess what? I think James Pierce Jr. has the ability to be very good. We can work on the weight. We can work on the weight all
You can
day.
eat more food.
You can eat more food. You can work with Trey Hendrickson and develop your pass rush move. We said Trey Hendrickson worked with Joseph Ossai. We can work on all those things. And if the issue is with James Pierce Jr., what everyone's saying it is, hey, you know what? It's attitude. I can deal with attitude. I can work with attitude.
Absolutely.
It's the stuff off the field that does not come with a James Pierce Jr., right? That with other prospects, it would be concerning to me. So when I look at it, James Pierce Jr. to me is the obvious answer for the Cincinnati Bengals. He's the obvious guy. He makes the most sense. So guys, I don't know where you stand, but where I stand is I think James Pierce Jr. is a guy that we will have our pass rusher of the future, and he's a guy that I'm excited about. So James Pierce Jr. is my pick for you. I don't know where we all think
I
as a
couldn't agree
collective.
more.
I think we're all good with it.
All right.
Yeah.
James Pierce Jr.
All right. Get him in here.
James Pierce Jr. All right.
Wrap it up.
And listen. I like Walter Nolan. I do. But to me, I feel like if you draft Walter Nolan here, you're also punting on the production of guys like Chris Jenkins Jr., McKinley Jackson, guys that you really are excited about. Listen, I love Walter Nolan. I think Walter Nolan is going to go on to be a very, very good pro. I do think his pass rush set is limited. I think he wins a lot with the bull rush move.
Yep.
But also, it's a deep defensive tackle room for the Bengals, and he's going to have a hard time actually finding playing time on the football field. But I like this pick overall. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the only slight worry that you have with James Pierce Jr. is the initial fit right away on early downs, or just there's still no obvious fit to take away Trey off the field early in the games, which is where, maybe you kind of would run a different style of edge. But that's where Joseph Ossai can fill one need, Miles Murphy can fill the other, and then boom, you have your sick pass rush duo and James Pierce Jr. and Trey Hendrickson. You can move Murphy around, you can move Ossai around, and you can get really creative when you're doing it that way. Yes, I get, maybe there's some slight area confusion with Pierce and how directly he's going to impact the game, but he can get to the quarterback, and frankly, that's all I care about.
Yeah, and just when you look at Pierce, I think, and I do understand the concerns. For me at this point, it really is, what's your alternative? And the only alternative for me was a Walter Nolan. And I am concerned. I think you take Walter Nolan if you're confident that dude is going to be a superstar pass rusher. As of right now, I'm not. And I think that there's better value with these defensive tackles in round 2 and round 3. And it really is, what's your replacement value of the pass rushers? And I wasn't a huge fan of these pass rushers in round 2 being 3 down potential edge rushers. So I like it. I know that there was Malachi Starks. Like I said, I'm good. I think there's better, better value at safety. Somebody mentioned Nick Emanuari. We didn't really touch on him. He was still available. I just think it's a little rich, and it's also, you're banking on a dude who he was productive, but he missed a ton of tackles. And for me, he just wasn't a full all-around safety that I'm ready to take over and forget about, hey, a guy that I think in James Pierce Jr. that can be my star pass rusher.
I saw people brought up Harmon out of Oregon too. I really like Harmon. I just don't think that he's in that same tier as you would have for Walter Nolan and for James Pierce. I feel like they were kind of the last part of that tier with Malachi Starks, and that was kind of what we were looking at squarely there. Everybody else, as much as I love Harmon, I do think there are questions about his consistency in tackling. He is a great disruptor, and I'm not a big guy who harps on finishing all the time, but when I'm talking about you need to be finishing better, like it's an issue. So that's definitely
names off the board.
So real quick, Walter Nolan went to the Tennessee Titans. The Giants got Shador around.
It worked out
good for them.
Right?
Wow. So the draft sort of looks somewhat real.
They learned after taking Daniel Jones so early last time. You know what I'm saying?
Jack Beck goes in the second round of the Patriots.
Xavier Watts off the board.
Booker gone.
They go receiver back to back with Ted Williams. And then they go with Jack. I don't know.
Tyler Booker to the Jets. Princely to the Cowboys is a good one.
I think even some of those DBs are, worth kind of bringing up how they aren't here. I think they fit in really well with Al. I don't know if they necessarily go there round 2, but I think Al would like those style corners.
Here round 2. I mean, there's a lot of good names on the board. Obviously, Xavier Watts is one of the guys that's off the board. You went pass rusher, so I'm curious if there's any names that are kind of sticking out to you guys.
But I'm really interested what this trade back is.
Okay.
Seems
Interesting.
Do you guys see anybody who you're like, oh, I absolutely like, I'm
We go
going to
guard.
stand on the table?
I
or
think
like,
there's. I think there's some good value here, but that is, we'll see what the trade down
well,
is
now
in general.
I'm willing to hear
Yeah.
out Tate Ratledge with tackle. Do we want to throw that in there too?
Yes, because I think there's
a couple
Oh,
guys.
there's
I
some
think
good guys here.
Donovan Jackson's
Yeah.
a huge
Right.
one for me here.
Okay, so talk about
Sabaino.
Donovan Jackson.
I mean, just in general, he's been rock solid for Ohio State for a long time. He came in and played guard at a pretty reliable rate, and then kicked out and played tackle at a borderline elite level down the year. Like having that guy, that flexibility to provide you really steady guard play that can come in and be honestly a pretty good tackle. There's some people who might even think he is just a tackle, but having that elite flexibility with that high floor, Bengals love their Ohio State guys too. I just think, it's a good combination of like position of need, BPA, you get the flexibility, you get the tackle upside, you just get a little bit of everything with Donovan Jackson. I think he's a very high floor pick here. I don't really see him struggling too much. He's just a really solid player that can do a number of things, and he kind of just fits really well with what I think the Bengals need.
So there's one kind of glaring red flag with Jackson to me. And so you're 22 and you're a senior, and you've been playing guard for 3 seasons, basically 2 years as a starter. And even at a 22-year-old at Ohio State, your true pass block grade is 46.5.
Yeah.
So when the gimmick plays aren't there, when the running little play action, the little tunnel screens and smoke screens aren't there, and you've got to sit back and you've got to take a true drop, which again, the Bengals are one of the highest rates of true pass sets in the NFL. You have one of the most true drop back dependent games where you're taking 5 and 7 step drops. Do you trust that guy?
The thing is, like, we're looking at like the true pass set numbers here that Dana had just pulled up for a second, is when he first made the switch to tackle, he was terrible. And he allowed a lot of pressures, a lot of stuff very early on in his time in tackle. But then once he went down the stretch, once you went into the college football playoff games, he was looking like a completely different player. So I'm not saying he's an elite pass protector, but I think he's probably should fall more in that average to slightly above average range than a plenty below average here. And I think it's more of an average, which is still good. If you're going to give me guard play and tackle play at an average rate, I think that's a pretty good valuable skill set here still.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
for me, as I look at it, I think I've got 3 guys I'm kind of circling. I think
there's plenty.
I'm looking at, if I were to boil this down, I really like Ariante Ursary. We'll talk about him in a second. Talk about Tate Ratledge. I think that this is a huge group of offensive linemen that you would really kick yourself if you missed out on one of these guys, right? Because I personally, when you head to round 3, I think these guys will be gone. And sure, there's some other good ones, but I think this entire group,
it's kind of an end of a tier.
Could be I think all these guys, Ozzy 6'7", but Ariante Ursary, for me, the offensive line conversation is you got a guard who has dominated at guard, or you got a tackle who's dominated at tackle. And I think that Ariante could be one of the best offensive tackles in this class. The only question is, does he fit the Bengals? Because he's only played left tackle in his entire career.
Yeah, I don't know.
And you'd probably be asking him to kick in right away.
Only 2 snaps at left guard.
Yeah. So that's the question is, am I willing to pass on a guy who I believe could be the next offensive tackle, maybe after an Orlando Brown, or am I going to go to Tate Ratledge? But these are the 2 guys I'm kind of circling when it comes to offensive line.
Well, us being the TWSN scouting department here, and the Bengals have outsourced us to sort of help them make the pick at the draft, right? And you have guys who want different things. Here's my thing, guys, and maybe we should have talked about this before we started the mock draft. For me, it's keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, stupid.
Like I'm being honest. Where the Bengals have had issues is they try to be the smartest people in the room and they try to overcomplicate things. To me, guys, Bengals fans, let me just say this: this isn't a pretty draft for me. This is not about a pretty draft. This is about fixing the trenches, right? This is about getting quality players because clearly you weren't. There's a reason why the top guards in the market did not make it to free agency this year.
Yep.
There's a reason why. The league is telling you, hey, listen, this might not be a position that you value, but this is a position that we value. So for me, you were blessed to get James Pierce Jr. in the first round because any other draft, he's probably not there. Listen, and when you look at it, right, and you look at it and you talk about a guy like Tate Ratledge, he should not be here right now. That's the way I see it. And I agree with Chuck 2624. He says Jonah
Savaina.
I think he deserves.
I like
a little
Jonah
bit
a
more
lot as
love.
well.
I do believe he deserves more love, but I also think there's one thing that's pulling me more and more closer to a Tate Ratledge here, guys. It's the fact that he played alongside the Bengals starting right tackle in Amarius Mims, and right now you have a gaping hole at the right guard spot.
And he played right guard all 3 seasons.
Right guard all 3 seasons. He did it at a great production. They met with him at the combine. To me, Tate Ratledge should be the pick here. Listen, we could play the trade back game, but you're playing a very dangerous game. Because guess what? I'm willing to bet a few picks from now he's not here.
I bet.
There's also a reason why I'm not really considering Benjamin Morrison here. Hear me out. And it's because of that hip injury. I think that the Bengals are at a spot where they need to get as close to surefire production from their draft picks. And I really believe that Tate Ratledge secures them for at least the next 4 seasons at guard. But you have to also draft them in mind that, hey, we're willing to shell out the money for that guy. Maybe the price tag comes down on a guy like that if you extend them earlier on in the process so you don't get to that final year. And then it does cost you a boatload of money. The cap is going up. But to me, I don't think that this should be over complicated. To me, you know where you have a clear need is. It might not be sexy, but the goal is to keep Joe Burrow upright. That should be the goal for this football team. And I think that in years past, if Wyatt Millam is another guy that is very excited prospect. I just think that the fact that Tate Ratledge played at bigger school, he played at guard, he played against the elite production
on the correct side of the line.
100%. It's all those things that make me more excited about him. So I'm not going to overrule. I'm not going to make the pick for us, guys. Jimmy, what is the poll saying? What are people saying regarding it?
So people are saying right now, we just had it kind of going 7. Everybody kind of saying Tate Ratledge right now.
Yeah.
We got 34 votes in.
Man, he's the most consistent of the guys who's going to be a pass blocker.
Yes.
And again, we talked about how important that is. He plays the position naturally. He's got 3 seasons starting there. The biggest red flag is that he's not a dynamic athlete and he's on the older side. I don't care that he's on the older side. I need him to be consistent and good. I don't care if he's 21 or 24.
Right.
That's not important to me right now. I don't care if he's going to be good for 10 years. I need someone who's going to hit and be good for 3 or 4 years. We'll worry about the rest down the road.
I don't need my offensive guard to test like a freak.
You don't need to be an athlete because the Bengals aren't pulling guards like crazy, right?
And there's some people, and I understand, and once again, we appreciate everybody tuning in. For the people that say Tate Ratledge's film isn't impressive, I must have seen something different. I saw a guy who, yes, he had some faults. I've seen that dude. He's 6'6", and you can see his pure size on the film, right? It's a guy that he's rarely, I believe, in the wrong position. Maybe it doesn't look like he's mauling guys all the time.
That doesn't matter. It's about not getting the quarterback hit.
And when I looked at it and I compared, and I'm looking at their other guard, Fairchild, I thought they were 2 completely different levels of guys. So I thought that Tate Ratledge is a guy I personally believe deserves to be in this mid to late round 2, round 3 conversation. And the number one thing for me is he checks the box of 6'6", the size that they like. The Cincinnati Bengals, they want the biggest guys at the offensive line position. So I wouldn't be opposed.
I'll repeat it again. This is not supposed to be a sexy draft. This is a draft to fix the Bengals, to get them back in the postseason contention. You want your quarterback, who was the most hit quarterback in the National Football League, to keep getting hit. Guess what? He might have led the league in passing yards this year. He might have led the league in passing touchdowns this year. But is that sustainable? Is that sustainable with guys like Cody Ford blocking for him? Is it? We talk about how the Bengals need to grab guard. Well, guess what? Go out there and draft your own.
Draft a guy who's got over 800 pass block snaps in the last 2 years and only 1 sack allowed.
Yeah.
That's easy. It's easy.
It makes, like, to me, this I understand there are a lot of tempting picks. JT still being on the board as a pass rush guy that I love, right? That perks my ears up. I'm like, double down. I'm cool with that. But guess what? No. This isn't about, I have to tell myself, keep it simple, stupid. Yeah. Again, you got a guy like Tate Ratledge on the board who's probably going to be a long-term starter in Cincinnati for about 8 years. If you choose to start him there, it makes no sense to overcomplicate this. This is my thoughts. Whatever you guys decide, I'll be on board for. But I'm telling you, I'm putting my hand down on the table right now. Tate Ratledge should be the pick.
Yeah, is there any other names? You guys want, Logan, any name you want to throw out real quick?
I mean, not necessarily if we're going on the offensive line. I mean, I love Josiah Stewart. Again,
I think the running backs are interesting.
We're not
but
really
again,
doubling down on a pure pass rusher. Again, like Evan said, the running backs are pretty interesting. Way too early for me. I mean, in general, there's still some offensive linemen I like probably a little more than Ratledge. It give you a little more upside. But
Stand on that table. Stand on that table.
It's not nothing to like really go home about. I think there's a few higher upside linemen, but like we said, that's not necessarily always the point. We don't necessarily. I think Jared Wilson is a better football player.
Really?
I think Marcus Mimbo is a better football player. I think Jonas Savaina is a better football. He plays center. Yeah. That's it. That's just the one problem with him. He's only played center in college. He did some guard work throughout the pre-draft stuff. He's a phenomenal athlete. Best offensive line athlete you're going to see. A little smaller sample size for him compared to Ratledge and some of these other guys. But again, these are just more of upside plays. And Ratledge is by far one of the higher floor plays just in the offensive line in the whole class.
I just want to point out while he's highlighting pass block grade, it's important to note when PFF is evaluating, they are giving 0, +1, +2, etc. on how they grade these. Center is a lot easier to have higher grades because you are going to have fewer negatives. It is hard for a center to lose a block so bad that the quarterback then gets blown away and it looks bad. It's a -1, it's a -2. So they accrue a lot of +0s, +1s, +1/2s. And so that consistency also builds up their grade. So you want to take the pass block grade sometimes with a grain of salt when it comes to centers because you have so many net neutral plays that consistency factor kind of builds up for you over time. And it's not someone you expect to lose or be faulted for a lot because there's a lot of combo blocks involved.
Yeah. And I think I'm pretty much on the same wavelength. I'm a fan of
Somebody said Wyatt Milam. Most people don't. Can you click them again?
Yeah.
So the only problem I have with all these guys is you have a high. Absolutely. Are these guys more talented football players who could be all pro or Pro Bowl level guys? Absolutely. But the appeal of Tate Ratledge is that you get a guy who has played the position. He's not changing from left tackle to the other side of the line and playing a different position that you've never seen him play. They've got all these different question marks, either through health, through production. Again, like I know we talk about the versatility of some of the Ohio State offensive linemen like Donovan Jackson, but I just look at that and go, you were 22, you played the same position for 3 years, and your pass block grade was below average. Like, I'm supposed to be thinking you're the best of the best. Why would I believe you if you couldn't put that on tape?
The only other thing I want to bring up, and I know Ratledge played right guard and all this stuff, but let's not act like we don't also need a left guard. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like, while I think obviously,
who's played left guard?
You know what I'm gonna say, but like we're talking about from moving to the other side of the lines, move from left tackle to left guard makes more sense if we're projecting for a guy like Milam than it does to project him at right guard, like we were talking about with Ratledge. Imbo is another guy that's played right tackle. Maybe he can win a right guard as well.
I like him a lot, and like I think I'm pretty sold on Ratledge. I think for the Bengals it makes sense.
No problem.
I'm just very confident in Marcus. I think he's one of the flashiest guys. He's not
unique lineman,
the exact size that they want, 6'4". And that's kind of what you're getting, an athlete. You're getting a guy that can project. And I think personally, he's going to go a lot higher than this because this is a dude he flashed a lot on the tape. But I'm pretty sold on Tate Ratledge here if you guys are.
I like Ratledge. I got no problem with it. Like I said, with all my worries about the upside, is made up for in the fact he's playing a position we want. He's played next to Mims. It's his high floor pick. Right. So while he might not have the upside, he checks so many other boxes that some of these other guys don't.
This is the layup. It's not the sexy.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about.
It's not a dunk. It's not an alley-oop. It's not a 3-pointer, but it's
a bank shot, mid-range.
When was the last time you felt good like they hit on an offensive lineman? Like I love Amarius Mims, but I'm willing to concede that we need a little bit more time before we make a verdict on him as a player overall. But I just think it's an easy this guy's going to be something.
I think this is the first time in a little bit, probably since the Burrow draft, where you say that our first and second pick, we feel very good that they're going to turn into very solid pros for us.
Right. Yeah. Even if they don't achieve the all-pro or Pro Bowl upside. Yeah.
Lock them in.
49th overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. Your Cincinnati Bengals select Tate Ratledge, guard, Georgia.
I clap for that pick.
All right.
I clap for that pick. Yeah. I really do.
Trey Amos there off the board.
Listen,
too.
I don't know how. So far, I'm feeling very good about our first two picks. James Pierce Jr. Obviously, James Pierce Jr. probably has more questions in terms of the weight, in terms of the hands, but those are all things that can be fixed. Those are all things that are correctable. Green Bay gets JT. Wow, that's
a good pick for the Chargers.
So let us know down in the conversation. What do you guys think of the draft so far? We're trying to include you guys in the conversation as well.
Tate won the poll.
Yeah, Tate did win the poll.
Donovan Jackson to the Texans there finally. I think it's blind.
Travion Henderson was in the poll.
Yeah, I just put him there. I couldn't
And
figure out
just kind of to
exactly who
talk
else
through
would
some
have.
of the other options, we talked through the offensive linemen. It's a weird spot for D tackle where
Yeah.
you've got a lot of guys with question marks. I know
mercy.
the backup D tackle from Tennessee. Gosh,
Norman
Omar
Law?
Norman Law.
yeah. So he's only played like 250 snaps in each of the last 3 seasons.
But he gets like 10.
right, and he killed when he's on the field. Like he's like the question mark of Trey Hendrickson to the
Is there any
extreme,
guys?
like-
Sorry, is there any guys you
put us
guys are
off.
thinking that would entertain a trade up here, or are we just
Trading up's real difficult for us. I'm not
Yeah.
going to say
You got a
it's
low number of
impossible.
picks already. I'd be
And I don't
looking
know
more
how
to
interested I
trade
am in
back
giving
than
up
trade
I'll be
up.
real with you.
picks.
There's a guy I'm about to stand on the table for in the 3rd round if
Okay.
he's here.
I wonder.
Well,
who-
hold on. Do you want to?
No.
You want to
Yeah.
just let it go?
It's not at that point to where
I
I
wonder
feel like I'm going to
who
play
I
the
think
Bengals
it
game.
is.
Again, the Bengals
Mhm.
loved Logan Wilson coming
Yeah.
out, and you know how the Bengals go, man. They might love a guy, but
Just like
I think this is the biggest opportunity. I
Yeah.
think you got to kind of play the board the way it falls to you. But I
Yeah.
think here you're going to have a lot of interesting options at linebacker, safety,
Yes.
defensive tackle,
I'm going to
corner.
ask one thing. Can I go?
safety.
Can I go first?
Yeah,
on this,
yeah.
guys.
I'll
Just wanna
allow it.
make- You'll allow it. I just want to stand on the table for a
Chris
guy.
Paul
real quick.
Jr.
Pooh
I'm happy
man.
he's
Oh,
gone.
baby. Terrence Ferguson.
That,
Love me
that
some
would have been.
Terrence
I
Ferguson.
would have been.
All right.
sold
Kevin
on
Winston.
All right.
off the
Kevin
board.
Wint. See,
I
look,
already
these
know.
linemen are still on the
I know
board.
exactly where
These
he's
linemen
going.
are still on the board. Let
Do
me
it.
just say something
Do
really
it.
quick.
Yeah.
There's a guy. Here's a guy, right? At the free safety position. I'm sorry, Jimmy's ears. Andrew
Exactly.
Makuba.
Yeah.
You talk about a guy that I think has some of the best ball skills in this
Mhm.
draft class. It's him. 10 times over. And I understand the Bengals didn't show a lot of interest in him. I get all of that. Trust me. However, we can't ignore the production of him. This draft is about, listen, it's not going to be the most sexiest pick. It's about getting this thing corrected. You've got my man Geno Stone, who's going to be a free agent after this year. You do not know what that's going to look like. So you're almost staring at a situation again where you don't know if who your safeties of the future are. Now, in the 2nd round, I could have been sold on Xavier Watts if he was still there, but he's
Mhm.
not. Andrew, to me, for whatever reason, isn't getting a lot of love, but this is a guy that showed up. He flashed on tape. Listen, his ball skills are second to none. The Bengals need a long-term guy locked in at safety to pair up with Jordan Battle. To me, there's a lot of other guys on the board, but I just want to stay right now. Andrew Makuba is a guy that I really, really love in the spot.
Yeah, I think with Makuba in general, just straight off talent wise, he's a top 50 player for me.
Yeah.
We're here at pick 81. He's a 93rd ranked player, should be much higher in my opinion. But when you look at the pure fit with Al Golden, I think that's where you get excited because Al loves this man coverage. Obviously, we'll see how it plays out in the NFL, but he loves the man coverage. He loves these single high safeties. He loves doing these things where he really, really, really trusts his secondary to win athletically, to win just man on man. And they're going to have somebody back there to cover up your mistakes. Andrew Makuba is a phenomenal athlete. He's a guy that can cover an insane amount of ground. And he's just a guy that makes so much sense with how Al Golden is going to run his defense. I fully expect the Bengals to target somebody in the secondary relatively in these first 3 rounds in the draft because I think Al Golden is going to want people that really fit what he is trying to do. And the couple areas where we don't really have that, the fits are in the secondary. So I could see Al easily wanting to pound the table for a guy like Makuba or Watts or even, Morrison to some degree, if that's the direction he goes, but just these guys that, he can trust to play man. He can trust to cover ground. He can just trust to make plays. I love Makuba here. Absolutely love it.
I will be honest with you though, guys, and I want to get your opinion. It's tough because I didn't expect Jordan Savaina to still be here. I didn't expect him to still be sitting here. And to me, I didn't expect Wyatt Millen to be sitting here because listen, guys, we can talk much about how we love our tackles and we do love our tackles. But Orlando Brown is getting older.
Mhm.
Orlando Brown is getting older. The knee is a little bit of an issue. The Bengals do need to grab a swing tackle. But I don't also want to push that guy out the door because he's coming off one of his best years before he hurt the knee.
Yeah.
I still think there's a lot there. I just want to say I love Makuba here. I really, really do.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that Jordan Savaina is still sitting here, the fact that Wyatt Millen is still sitting here, now we're talking about considering these guys a little bit more.
So my thoughts looking here, right? We've got 4 trade offers. And like you said, there's a lot of guys here that we're
Trade
looking
interest.
at for tackles that we're looking at that we're like, man, they have tackle guard versatility and we really like the profile. Safeties who have great ball production that I agree. Makuba, absolutely. A great compliment to a guy like Jordan Battle. The forced incompletion rate, the 5 interceptions, 0 touchdowns allowed, and over 350 coverage snaps, absolutely has that range to be able to cover. If you said, hey, could we trade back 15, 20 picks, and then we get an extra 4th-round pick, and now we can get maybe Deion Walker and Jamari Caldwell. Maybe we can get one of those tackles and Jamari Caldwell, and now you've got a guy like a DJ Reader build who is a nose tackle who can play the run, but also has that pass rush upside. You can have that versatility that you can rely on the field to potentially where if he looks good in camp, he might be able to start at that position for you and offer a little bit more to that than what you've gotten before. Has been good against the run, good against the pass, has great size. I think he weighed in at like 320 pounds, but still has great wiggle and shake, good ability to get in between the tackles. If we could trade back and get another pick of his caliber, man, like if you take him and like, again, I'm just spitballing. If you double dip at D tackle because you didn't get to earlier, right? And say, hey, Jamari Caldwell and Deion Walker, and you walk away with that, like you're feeling a lot better about your potential for the interior. Now I'm saying Deion Walker, that's not someone I absolutely love, but it's just an example for a guy. Or if any of these tackles, if Marcus falls farther, if the West Virginia tackle falls even farther, if Wyatt falls farther, if Makuba falls farther. Like that's the thing is I see a lot of guys here, and if we could trade back 10 picks, 15 picks,
the interest, not the offers, but the interest.
We're at 81 right now.
So we have Browns 94.
94. So to go back 13
that's
spots?
The Browns. We're not trading with the Browns probably. I think the 49ers at 100. The 49ers, I mean, that's a decent jump back.
I'm not going that far, to be honest.
The 49ers probably have 80 million comp picks. So they could probably throw a bunch of those at you if you're interested in trying to do something. Yeah, 100, 113, 138. I mean, that's just that's about the only team I'd consider just because they have look how many picks they have left. That's a team that'd be willing to give you multiple picks, which is what the Bengals would be looking for in this scenario. But it is a 19 spot drop off, which is a healthy margin.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a lot of guys I like. I would definitely entertain a trade down. I do like Savaina.
But that's the thing is you start getting into the range where you were talking about when you have Anthony Belton. You have after testing, I'm not as big of a fan as Harold Fannin Jr. as I was going in. But this is where you start talking about, hey, like we would like a lot of picks in the next 50 to 100 picks to get a couple guys to where, hey, wide receiver, linebacker, safety, corner even would be defensive tackle. Aeneas Peebles, you want a pass rushing guy right there? There you go. Take Jamari Caldwell and take Aeneas Peebles. I like that combo better than I like the Deion Walker. Like then you solve your pass rushing and you get a pass rushing nose tackle and a 3-tech guy. Like, and then you solve your D tackle rotation.
I got Jared Wilson still there.
So
that's why I like the trade.
Georgia line.
I know we have like 1 or 2 guys up top we really, really like, but I can go down the board 20 picks and say I really like any 3
real
or
quick.
4.
We can try one. Let's try a trade down. I'm good to trade down.
What do you think?
I would trade down maybe 8 to 10 spots.
I'm open to trading back. I'm open to trading back and seeing what's potentially. But again, I think we're playing a risky game with Makuba because I do think that he's the last of the safeties,
especially with Kevin Winston went off the board right before.
Yeah,
I understand, and I'm just trying to make the argument for it.
But again, I told you this.
I love the ball production and I love his style.
Yeah.
Well, how about we do this then? I'd be willing to do Makuba now, and I'd be interested. I don't know. I'd be interested in trading up.
I don't want to trade up because you lose picks. You can't lose. This is not the Bengals where you had 10 picks.
Holes.
You have 6.
Who has the most picks? The most complex? The 49ers.
It'd be the 40. Bro, they have like 8. It's up in the trades. You click on the 49ers. They just have.
So the 49ers have 100 and 113. I think Makuba will be gone by then.
They have 8 picks remaining.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's
what I'm saying. If we were there, absolutely, I'd trade all of them to trade up.
Like
Rams have 90 and 101. They got 127.
Rams have a good healthy amount.
So what if we try 81 to 90 and we get?
I mean, that's probably what you'd have to get unless you want to throw something else in there.
Yeah, just try 127. Okay, well. It says it's likely.
Yeah, they would take that. Are we willing to move
how
back?
Would you feel about this
9
spot move back here?
I'm good with it. I see at least 8 guys.
Makuba,
I'd like it,
man. I really like Makuba.
All right, up to you guys. Though.
Do me a favor.
Yeah.
We got to do it the Bengals way though. We have to
try one.
No.
Try to go for 101.
101, and then we try it.
7% chance. I'm a Powerball guy. Nope. All right. Well,
then how about?
That's why I want a Powerball yet.
No.
Include 127
instead of 101.
Oh
yeah. Let them cook.
And then do.
Well, they're about to accept that one as it is right now.
190.
Oh, okay. You're trying to get another one in there.
Yeah.
That could be fun.
At 190. Go 190.
190.
195 season. Was that
40.
Offer it.
I don't. Yeah,
All right, now
I was
take
gonna say I
195
don't
out of
think
it.
that. I don't
Add
think that's
201.
realistic.
I'm
my
with
goodness.
it.
We're trying to fleece these guys.
We got
for
2
9
attempts left. We got
spots.
2
Yeah.
attempts
Take
left.
that out. Now take two.
They're moving up 9 spots, y'all. Like we're being.
All right, now just take that one out. Now we can accept it. Okay.
If they accept.
All right.
That's how they do it,
So,
though.
that's how the Bengals do it.
How they do it.
Listen,
They're like, oh
that's-
shit! Finally, we'll take it. I
Yeah,
guess.
Yeah.
I like that though. Let's see who
All
comes
right.
off the board though.
Let's hope
Rams
it's-
just moved up to take Jordan Burch. Good player right there. Very good player right there as well. Ozzie, that's a good fit for Seattle.
But guys, let's talk about
Milrow to the Steelers.
Let's actually talk about why we traded back. That gives the Bengals even more picks now. In the
Yes,
draft.
we
Whereas
need
they only
it.
had 6. You at some point the Bengals will have to probably entertain a potential trade back
There goes Marcus.
and seeing if there's something else that they can grab.
There goes
All right,
Caleb
2
Williams.
more. 2 more.
There you go.
Oh,
You get
hold
one. You
on,
can either your
hold
tackle
on.
or your safety right away.
Right now,
all the tackles are gone though. For most, not all of them, I'll say, but
Now, but hear me
That's
out.
not what we
There's still
care
a guy
for.
that I love at tackle
Yep.
that I'm happy about. But Makuba is still sitting here.
do it.
Are we scared about this pick? Are we?
No.
Are we? Anybody have any reservations?
Nope, keep
No.
it
So
solid.
I
I
think-
think the only
Yeah.
just to draw to his negative, it's tackling.
Yeah.
You got a 14% missed tackle rate, but you're not bringing him to do that, right?
Yeah.
You're letting him be that post safety, that deep safety. You're letting him use his rangy
Mm-hmm.
coverage skills and try and get interceptions. And you're willing to miss that tackle that gets an extra 5, 10, 15 yards for the sake of getting an interception that changes the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sold on McCool.
Yeah, you don't seem happy about it.
No, I do. I'm excited.
He's just doing his due diligence.
Yeah, I'm just looking. I'm trying to do.
What,
No,
does
I'm cool with
everybody-
Makuba here.
We all go Makuba
Yes.
here?
Yep.
All right, let's do it.
And we
All right,
added more
perfect.
picks with
So
it.
we added more picks here.
That's awesome.
I think that was a winning trade. We
All
got
right,
the guy we
absolutely.
wanted.
We
and
got the
we
guy
got
we wanted and we
We
got
picks, we got- we
Let's
were able
do
to
it.
trade back. I think this is a
That's
this is a good
awesome.
spot. This is a good spot,
Yeah, that was phenomenal.
right? And we'll be picking up here again shortly.
And what?
19,
119.
19.
Yeah, we got a little bit still.
Yeah.
But
But
still.
in my head,
I'm excited about that. I again, these first.
Deion Walker, that is a nightmare pick. Chris Jones and Deion Walker both
I'm,
back.
They got
I'm not,
Heresy,
as, I'm
too,
not as scared
earlier.
of Deion Walker as you are.
The only thing.
Upside's there, but
What I'm a fan of Deion Walker is truly the fact that he's giving you something that the Bengals don't have. They don't have a 6'7" defensive tackle.
I mean,
and
yeah,
that's
but
a
the
fact.
problem is he doesn't
That's
use
a
it
dark
functionally.
range.
I
It's
agree.
ornamental because when
I
he was
agree.
at the Senior Bowl, he's getting pushed around by guys who are 70 pounds
I
less than
agree.
him. So it's great that you're giant, but if you can't get your pad level down, you
Totally.
can't win the leverage battle,
That's a good
and
picture.
you're not strong enough to beat
Yeah.
guys who are 70 pounds lighter than you. What the hell does it matter how big you
I
are?
totally agree, and that's where I think with him, you're taking.
And you got a bad back.
people's off
Yes.
the board.
Oh
my
man,
heart.
I'm a
Did
fan of him.
Jamari
No, I
Caldwell
don't
go
think
off
so
too?
yet. David Walker's a good player.
Oh my God, if he goes off before we pick, then I'm really gonna
Jared
cry.
Wilson.
Oh, but Jarrett Wilson was a guy I
Good
was looking
player.
at too,
Good
man.
player.
Yeah, man.
God,
Man,
coming up. I love
I'm
having a
worried
pick.
about the
I love having a
Cardinals,
pick
and
in this
I'm worried
range.
about the Dolphins. If we can make it,
There's
through
something
there.
you're eyeing
CJ
on?
West
There's
is
something you
good
got your
I
eye on?
wanted Jamari Caldwell.
Okay.
Well, here we go.
Yeah, we got some more
Assuming
picks.
the-
Gunnar
assuming
Helm
the-
goes
That's
to the
such a
Colts.
Colts
That
pick.
is a Colts
That's
pick.
such a Colts
For
pick.
the shoe.
Torrey Horton's a good
Feed the
player too.
Colts.
All right, here we are.
All right. You know, I was asked by
It's a
someone.
fun range.
I was asked by somebody, Malik, is there anybody that you look at in this draft, right, that you absolutely love that is your Carrington Valentine? Someone asked me that. It's not, actually. It should be. I'll tell you who it is. It's the leader in interceptions.
Oh yeah.
It's Noah Williams for me.
Mhm.
I'm not saying we should pick him here, but someone asked me, who do you absolutely love? Who do you think is going to be an absolute stud? It is Noah Williams. His ball skills are undeniable. He also has return ability. He's bigger, but he reminds me of Pac-Man Jones when you watch him. His instincts are second to none. I think the guy's going to wind up being a very, very good pro.
Yeah,
I like Noah Williams here. I'm not saying the Bengals should draft him here. I'm just saying he is a guy that I really, really love. And if when draft day comes, admittedly, Daniel put me on him. One of Daniel's close friends. He put me on him. And when you turn on the tape, it's just undeniable. For me, it makes a lot of sense. Some team's going to wind up getting a very, very good player. Noah Williams makes a lot of sense here at cornerback. The Bengals have question marks after this year when it comes to the cornerback position. Danny, you can pull up his tape. I believe he played at 2 different colleges.
Yeah, he played at UNLV and he played at Cal. I'm a huge fan of him, and I think that if we're talking corner,
and you're talking about Al Golden's system,
yes,
no
him and
Williams
Makuba is a fire
is
addition
a
to that
fire.
Al Golden
And you want to
system,
talk
dude.
about what Al Golden loves? Al Golden loves press man corner, standing
That
at
can make-
6'1" that can make tackles. He led the college football nation as a corner with 7 interceptions this past year. To me, it's absolutely undeniable. That guy's going to wind up being a great player. And you want to talk about a guy that can tackle?
Yeah.
That is no Williams.
Totally. I'm a huge fan of him. And I think if you're talking about a guy, some people may consider this a reach. I'm looking for good football players. This is a guy like that. I've known him for a while. He's loved the game of football. And this is a guy you have no questions about him coming into a new team and working his ass off, right? Went from UNLV, went to Cal, and immediately became their best cornerback. And this is a guy who's prototypical size, 6 foot, physical. And we're talking about a guy, I have no qualms. I guarantee this dude steps right in and he will have battles against George Pickens. He will have battles against DK Metcalf. People talk about some of the best receivers in this year's draft class. You know, a guy from Stanford, Alec Iomaner. Noel Williams at 6'1" absolutely dogged him in the run game. You look at last year, Rome Odunze, you know, they played up against Washington. Absolutely dogged him in the run game. I want a guy who's physical. I want a guy who can tackle, and I want a guy who just knows how to find the ball in the air, and that's Noel Williams. So
he's a guy that also Al Golden is not going to have any problem leaving on an island, because in Al Golden's system, all these corners are going to be required to do a lot. And right now, you have to ask yourself, the Bengals corners struggled a lot in these one-on-one situations, albeit they were playing a zone type coverage. But when you talk about a guy like Noel Williams, who can really apply pressure on opposing wide receivers and opposing quarterbacks with his ball hawking ability, man, I think he's a special player, and he can play zone too.
yes,
I want to point out too, because I was advocating for defensive tackle for Jamari Caldwell, who has been great against the run, been great against the pass. But I want to say to your point, and why I won't fight you on Noel Williams, is because as much as we feel like there's a logjam at corner right now, we need to be real with ourselves and look a little bit into the future. And on top of it never being enough as it is, as I advocate for all the time, I've been saying for years, every year they need to draft corner higher. They need to sign veteran corners. You just got rid of Mike Hilton. And guess what? After this season, Cam Taylor-Britt's gone and Dax Hill is gone. Now you can bring them back, but that's two corners that you got to replace. 3 if you include Mike Hilton, because you haven't done it yet. And then DJ Turner has 1 year left on his deal after that too. So in the next 2 years, you're about to turn over your entire cornerback room. So unless you do something to try and address that right now, and as much as I want to believe in Fig Newton, in DJ Ivey, I'm not putting all my eggs in the basket of a 5th and 7th round pick coming off a serious injury. So I do like the idea of adding a corner who has a lot of that ball winning man press defense upside there where you can get the most of him.
Yeah, man. I think that I'm a huge fan of Noel. Oh, your guy Caldwell is still here. I think if we're looking at defensive tackles, I'm a huge fan of Neas Peebles. He's gone. And for the people we hear you talking about defensive tackles, there's a guy I'm a huge fan of, and I know Logan is too. JJ, I'm gonna butcher his name, Piggies.
Guys.
This dude is one of the most athletic. That's I guarantee. Search it. It's I guarantee. Search it up. It's Peggies. Okay, I guarantee. Piggies. Same thing. One of the best names in the draft, and this is a dude. I'm telling you, search it up. It is. I guarantee it's Peggies.
JJ Piggy.
And I promise you, this dude would be a fan favorite. This is a dude who played fullback. If you look, I wish we could pull up the stats.
He has seven
rushing touchdowns this year.
His former tight
He
end.
is a blur when it comes to defensive tackles. If you talk about a quick first step, this is what you're getting out of him. And he's a guy, like I said, the fact that he tried out at fullback, they had him running Wildcat. This dude is athletic. He played alongside Walter Nolan, and many times, to be honest, when I watched both of those guys in the pass rush, he's got moves. He's got a swim move. He's got a quick first step. So defensive tackles on the board. I haven't really touched on Caldwell, but he's the guy I'd be circling, saying, hey, round 4, if you want pass rush, if you want upside, I'm talking about him. So
I think keep in mind we do pick as well, though, in a few more spots.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. I forgot.
Yeah, I'm cool with waiting on Caldwell and hoping he's there later. To your point, I want to say that I think Peoples is probably the last like proven pass rush D tackle that you feel good about. Everybody else has that upside, but I feel like Peoples is that defined kind of drop off point of like, if you don't get him, like you don't necessarily have to get this one individual guy. There's arguments to be made for a lot of different guys at this point.
Yeah, I want to add just about JJ again because that's kind of where we're going between here.
Man, nobody backing me on Jamari. All right.
Okay, I'll talk about Jamari first. The first thing, like he's just super solid again. But I'm struggling to see where he gets in immediately. If the slat move wasn't made, I could say there's a clear path for him in that role.
But that's the thing. That's a 1-year deal, right?
2-year deal, but not that
it's a 1-year deal.
But not that it should stop you. But at the end, like it's like Malik. It's just not a super sexy pick, which is fine.
It's not.
There's nothing wrong with
But
that.
if you want a guy like a DJ
Yeah.
Reader
like
who's a nose tackle with pass rush ability,
yeah.
like I don't think he has like a giant repertoire, but I think he has better pass
He just
rushing
moves
upside.
He just moves well.
I think he moves really well for
Uh,
320, 330
yeah,
pounds.
absolutely. But with JJ in general, I think he has some legit pass rushing upside as well. I know he didn't. The grades aren't phenomenal for him. Everything's plenty above average here, but just like I said, he's a former tight end. He just moves really well. He does a lot of things really well. I think just the upside is there. Again, he can do so much. 7 rushing touchdowns, Wildcat quarterback. He can play a little bit on the edge. He moves up and down the line. He's just a versatile defensive lineman that you can do a lot of stuff with. And it's just
hear me
It's
out.
just fun having 7 rushing touchdowns in your back pocket.
We've made some good arguments for 2 interior defensive linemen.
Oh, there's
We've made
plenty
a
of
really
guys I
good
like
argument
here.
for the corner. You sold me on corner, and I see the impending need, right?
Yep.
Why don't we go corner? We got our pick coming up in a couple picks.
Yep,
Why don't we
we can
just
argue.
see who ends up getting there?
Yeah, there's a few guys I like.
And then we can
I
say,
like the
hey,
corner.
we'll make that.
I'm sold on that.
All
And we
right,
had
so-
our poll finished off with the guy we'll be going with, Noel Williams, corner from
There
Cal.
we go.
that.
All right. Yes, sir.
I
Love
appreciate the scout
Love
team
it.
having my back on that one because I wasn't sure.
I'm
I
willing to
thought-
hear the argument.
I thought
man.
I thought we were in some risky waters here. But Noel Williams is a guy that can wind up being your can wind up being a very.
He's going to score 10
good
touchdowns for Denver. next
player.
year.
Piggies go
Yeah.
home.
I really want a Barrett Carter.
But hear me
I
though,
was
like
waiting
he,
to talk about
but
Barrett
Noel Williams is a guy that can wind up being a very good player for you in the future.
Jamar
I'm
Carter.
willing to stand on the table and say
fuck.
if they pick Noel Williams, I think he will turn into a Pro Bowl corner.
Guys, can I make an argument here?
Yeah.
He's undersized.
Mm,
He's undersized, but the production is there.
He's small, but his heart is big.
Man, Willie Lampkin is a guy, man.
He's fun.
I don't know.
I know.
I know. Logan's so
Barrett
sad.
Carter's so good. Ahmed Hassanine's so good.
Yeah.
Oh,
Those
Make
guys are
make
good.
the case. Make the case.
Well, they're gone.
yeah, they're gone. They're all gone.
Sounds like your case is shit.
It is.
Well,
Man,
yeah, I think Willie Lampkin's fun. I watched him against an ESP Bulls.
I
I was
can't-
watching
I
that
just
game.
Speaking of Lampkin,
Bro,
we were talking
he-
about who stonewalled fucking Deion Walker. Willie Lampkin
I
did
can't.
it like
I could
280
not
pounds.
envision them putting a 5'11"
Yeah.
dude next to Orlando Brown.
Yeah, I
know. They'd be like, we can make it work. And as soon as you see them standing next to each other, you go, no,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We were,
I
what
mean,
were we thinking?
So I think
There's a couple
the two
interesting
names
guys
I
here.
think that are interesting is obviously I think these two are the ones I'm kind of looking at here.
Jack Kaiser.
I think
Okay.
Jack Kaiser and
Damian
Damon
Martinez
Martinez.
is
These
very
are
fun.
these are the two I think the Notre Dame connection obviously makes sense, but for Damian Martinez, he's probably one of my favorite running backs in this class. I think he is 5'11", 6 foot, but this dude is nimble between the tackles. And I think that's my concern with these other running backs is I want a guy that I can see upside as a pass or, as a guy in the pass game. And he's got it. Like I said, he was literally Cam Ward's outlet at Miami. He only had 17 receptions this past year, but he was his outlet. And this is a dude who arguably was the third best running back in college football after an Ashton Genty and after potentially like an Marr and Hampton. So I'm a huge fan of Damian Martinez, and I think he gives you something different that you don't have in the running back room, right? 6 foot, 5'11". He can do it between the tackles. He can do it at the short yardage, and he does give you some upside as a receiver. So if we're looking at running backs, I think Damian Martinez, but I don't know if any other names are sticking out to you guys.
I'm really with you on the Jack Kaiser pick. I like that spot because you need to add to that linebacker room right now, especially if you intend to move on from Jermaine Pratt, which if you want to bring back Trey Hendrickson and you want to add a guard, you need to do that because Trey Hendrick's cap hit is going to go up, right? T. Higgins came down with the deal. Trey's going to go up if he gets that extension. You have to be smart about what you're doing, and that means that Pratt's probably going to be gone. It's just a matter of when. Kaiser, I think, has the, like you said, Notre Dame connection, also has the production scores and has been consistent, and that does matter, especially when you talk about in these later rounds. If you're not going to be the high-end athlete, if you're not going to be a crazy flying around the field coverage guy, okay, the least you can do is be very productive at a very good school.
And I also wanted to say something really quickly. it sucks that we didn't grab the 3 tech that people were looking at here. But I also want to remind people, because I feel like this has been lost in translation. The Bengals have a defensive tackle that they drafted last year, I think is going to want to be a very good pro, and in Chris Jenkins Jr. Chris Jenkins Jr. showed a lot of flashes last year. I think he had 2 games where he had 2 sacks in both of those games. He was battling an injury at some point, but also the Bengals gave a nod to BJ Hill by bringing him back with that contract. They did go out there and sign TJ Sledden, and so this tells you that the Bengals feel good about at least their pass rushing standpoint. They made an emphasis of going out there, adding an absolute beast as a run stuffer in TJ, and they think that him coupled together with McKinley Jackson, coupled together with Chris Jenkins and BJ Hill, that tandem could be enough. But the real obvious thing for them was, hey, can we help Trey Henderson get another pass rusher opposite him? And let's not also act like the Bengals didn't move Joseph Ossai inside, and he produced a lot of success, and Miles Murphy. These are guys as well on the line that you feel very, very good about. And if they can produce and become what you hope them to be, the Bengals defensive line could very secretly become a strength for them. That all being said, I think Jack Kaiser does make sense here as the pick. Obviously, the Al Golden connection is undeniable. You pair him up together with a guy like Logan Wilson, you feel very, very good about what your future holds there. I like them. He's an older statesman, but he's a guy that you know what you're getting. You're getting an absolute model of consistency here, and I think that the fact that you're able to get him in this spot, albeit we were able to trade back and get some more picks, I feel like Jack Kaiser is a pick you once again feel good about. It's not sexy, but it's a sneaky move.
Totally. And I think when I watched this film, to be honest, it was something that he was just he plugs the holes in the run game, and he's a guy that isn't the most overly athletic, isn't the guy that has crazy sideline to sideline speed, but I definitely liked him, and I thought that he was the captain, of their defense. And that's kind of the concern when you look at some of these other linebackers. Like, obviously, you look at the round 1 guys, whether it's a Walker or whether it's, even a Campbell, both are guys that didn't wear the green dot, right? And you're asking them if they were to come in right away, obviously they could play off ball, but that's somebody I think that's valuable. And I think the fact that he was a 5-year player at Notre Dame, maybe for sure 4, that's valuable at the NFL level. You don't just need high athletic guys. And I think that the first, at least James Pierce Jr., super athletic. So Jack Kaiser is really the guy that I'm looking at as well. The rest of these guys, I don't know if there's any other names that stick out. Honestly, not really. I think that these are kind of the 2 that really stick out to me.
I'm going to be honest. I just kind of hate Jack Kaiser.
Really?
I just don't.
There's nothing special. It is solid. It is absolutely.
I don't think
just
the Bengals
fine.
need another averagely athletic linebacker that can do a little bit of everything kind of well.
So who would you go with them?
Well, just looking at the board, that's where it's tough, because I think Jack Kaiser does make sense in this specific area.
Right.
That's where it's like, I'm trying to find. I think I would pick Damian Martinez 100 times out of 100 times over Jack Kaiser here. I like Brashard Smith, another running back, a lot as well. We should go down a little bit too. I think if I'm going running back, those are the 2 guys I like a lot. Brashard Smith, a former receiver, kind of come into this SMU offense from Miami and just kind of went crazy. He's a guy that, I don't necessarily love his fit with the Bengals, because he's a lot of similarities to Chase Brown. He can make plays in the passing game and the rushing game, kind of just do a little bit of everything. I would, if I'm picking anybody here, I love Damian Martinez's fit with Cincinnati. He's a big bruiser. He can do a lot. He just complements Chase Brown so well. And I think that's just what I love about it. You don't need to ask Damian Martinez to do anything Damian Martinez isn't good at. And that sounds dumb, but you don't need to ask him to catch passes. You just don't. He just run forward, run through people, put his head down, and just run through guys. The Bengals need to improve in the short yardage game tenfold. And I think that's a guy that does that.
And it sort of supports your argument. The Bengals just didn't bring in Oren Burks on a 2-year deal, or was it 3 year?
3 years.
2 or 3 years. They didn't bring him on that just to sort of be a depth piece. This is a guy they think has untapped potential. He hasn't played necessarily. He didn't play necessarily a lot for Philly down, early in the season, but he played down the stretch. He was extremely impactful. He's an athletic guy. He's very, very good. Oren Burks is a guy that they really, really like, man. And that's just
we should go down a little bit again.
Yeah, so I could see the Damian Martinez pick too, because I don't think we need to press.
I also really like Luke Kandra here a lot as well. I know I don't want to say we're getting redundant with the offensive line, because I don't think you can ever really do that. But again, he's a true right guard. That's kind of where some of the issue might lie again. Just a very good football player, again, from Cincinnati. Not that they draft Cincinnati guys, but keeping the guy from Cincinnati in Cincinnati again, right after we just lost our other Cincinnati kid. But just in general, just another good, kind of more of a mauling offensive lineman. Now you got your guard duo of the future. He doesn't have to play year one if you don't want him to. But he's just another really good player.
And I see people in the comment section saying Burks is the ADG replacement. I hear that, Ryan, but I say that with all respect, and ADG didn't play a ton for the Bengals, so I don't necessarily think he was brought in to play limited snaps. I think that actually in our golden system, the defense is going to look different. It's going to see 3 linebackers on the field a lot more often than what we're used to.
And also, all of these 2-year deals are 1-year deal, guys. They're like the Sheldon Rankins contract. Yeah. They are like the Nick Scott contract. Yeah. These guys are here for 1 year, maybe 2 if the team wants you around. Yeah. So they shouldn't preclude you from taking anybody necessarily, because let's say things don't work out with the coaching staff, or some other change has to be made. You may have to pivot entirely.
Yeah.
I love the Damian Martinez argument. I absolutely hear it. I'm there with you guys.
Said Will Howard.
Will Howard's good. I don't know. I doubt he makes it here.
I'm sold.
I'm sold on Will Howard, not for the Bengals.
Yeah. For the Raiders.
I'm sold on Will Howard. Yes.
That's good for you.
You don't like him at all?
I don't think we need to talk about Will Howard.
We don't need to talk about it.
I totally disagree with you guys. I think he's better than these other dudes that people are talking about. I think he deserves Jackson.
We're talking about relative to the other quarterbacks what is called the worst quarterback class in the last 10 years.
Of course.
Sure, he's better than some of the other guys projected to go in round 5 of the worst quarterback draft of the last decade. Yes, I'll concede
but I still disagree. Like Jackson Dart is getting first round. I think
we're talking about 2 different things here.
Totally. Totally.
The last name I want to throw out a little bit is I don't know. Will you see if he's back up there? I'm scroll up. Oh yeah, Brandon Crenshaw Dixon from Florida again. He's more of just a tackle kind of guy.
Man's got to shorten it down. He's got to pick one name. He can't have that many names.
Whatever the hell you want to call him. It's a really good offensive lineman. He's more of your just kind of you're gonna stick him at tackle and kind of leave him there. He's 6'7". But again, we're looking at tackles of the future potentially, good depth options, potential. I don't really see him moving inside being that big, but it's possible. It's possible. But again, 3,000 snaps. Just a really good football player. Just a really good football player at tackle that does a lot of things well. Older, but can be a really good backup tackle with potential to start for you if you need.
BCD, let's go.
BCD, baby.
All right.
So Hakeem Adeniji 2.0.
But bigger and stronger,
Jack
better.
Kaiser.
SEC.
Jack Kaiser won. Are we listening to the audience here, or are we going?
I think this is also. We're entering the point in the draft where I think Logan made a very compelling case for Damian Martinez.
I do agree. Yeah. As someone who's advocating for Jack Kaiser is just the floor pick of feeling like you hit a single.
I think Oren Burks signing makes me feel okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Does it?
I mean, no, but it does. Pull up linebackers, Pull up linebackers. I mean, for where the Bengals are planning to do.
I'm sure it makes the Bengals feel better.
I think you got some dudes down here.
I would like to. Not that I'm like great at this or anything, but I would rather have Kobe King, Cody Simon, Cody Lindbergh, Danny Stutzman, Jay Higgins, and Teddy Buchanan all over Jack Kaiser.
Wow.
Okay, so we pick anybody else. So Damian Martinez.
That's just me, though. Like I get the other. Like I still get the.
No, I'd rather. Don't get me wrong. A very athletic class. I'd rather take a
Damian Martinez.
That's what I would do.
I'm cool with Damian Martinez. All right. Malik. Yeah.
What? Sure. Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, let's go for that one.
We're gonna upset some folks, but I think Logan made a good. I think you made a good case, and I definitely hear you. And this late in the draft, it'd be nice to hit a single, but I do like the idea of taking that upside of a guy like a Jordan Evans was, where hey, we're in the 5th and 6th rounds. Let's take an upside linebacker. A lot of athletic guys that you can get later in this draft.
Goes to the Bills.
Oh, that's a good pick for them.
It's gonna be short. Listen. Short Kings, we up. BCD goes to the Dolphins. BCD goes to
Rashard Smith to the Ravens.
And Dylan Gabriel to the Seahawks. Oh my God, that's such
that actually. Yeah.
Will Howard to the Niners.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, put the training wheels on him.
Jack Kaiser goes to Panthers.
That's a very Panthers pick.
That is a very Panthers pick. Man. Colby Hudson goes to the Jaguars. Come on, what do you guys think, Daniel? I mean, Logan, talk about your pick, man. You made your pick of Damian Martinez.
I love him, and in general, again, I love when you can draft a player with a clear role, with a clear responsibility, with a clear path to playing time, Everything about him is just so obviously clear. He's not going to steal much from Chase Brown, but he can do what Chase Brown isn't good at. That's running in the short yards. That's running between the tackles. That's running, getting 3 yards when you need 3 yards. That's what he's going to be great at. He can be your goal line back. He can just continue to move the changes, which is something the Bengals just desperately need, and complements Chase Brown phenomenally well.
So I just want to say something real quickly, Daniel.
Yeah.
There, at some point, the Bengals need to get a swing tackle. It's a spot for them that's sore, spot where they need a guy. Could we wait for this guy? Sure, maybe. But we don't pick again for a while. Let me just make the case for Holland Pierce. Holland Pierce, 6'8", 340 plus. Ryan Sparks, him and I agree, and he says, Holland Pierce, or are we all unsubscribe? Holland Pierce is that guy. Is that good? He walked on at Rutgers 400 plus pounds, got himself in shape, and wind up being one of their better linemen they've had come out of Rutgers. One of their best, to be quite honest with you. He provides the swing tackle upside. Can you click him, please?
Yeah.
He's a guy, and Holland Pierce is a guy that is your prototypical left tackle. So when that time comes to make a decision regarding Orlando Brown, you know you have another guy. You look at his run blocking grade, 83.5. His true pass set blocking grade was a 77. Holland Pierce is a mammoth of a guy to get around. He is going to maul people. And I was talking to my guy Trevor at PFF, and he said, you know what? Honestly, he said Holland Pierce could find himself being a day one starter. Now, people do wonder, hey, can this guy can he pick up his feet? His feet are a little bit sluggish at times. I was talking to Holland Pierce at the combine. He said, I'm even willing to move in the guard to learn. This is a guy, like, you look at his size, though. He's a mammoth of a guy. This is all about keeping Joe Burrow upright. I know I talked about Noah Williams, and I was excited about that pick, but this is a pick that I feel very, very strongly about. And what better guys for him to have, learn from than Amarius Mims and Orlando Brown Jr.
Yeah.
The same exact size. Not too many tackles that have the same exact size as you come in the draft that to that respective team with 6'8", 340 plus, and you get to learn from. I think Holland Pierce, when you turn on the tape and you watch him, the one thing that stands out is he has violent hands. He is violent in the run game. He is violent in the passing game. Can get even better on the passing game, as he admitted. But this is a guy that once he gets his hands on you, he tends to rock you back in a big way. And if you watch Holland Pierce, he gets to the second level. He's always reaching out. He's always looking to find someone to put a hand on. To me, that's what the Bengals miss. He's a nasty offensive lineman. Nice guy, but he's a nasty offensive lineman. I think he's going to wind up being one of the best steals of this draft. So for me, Holland Pierce is my unequivocal pick here at this spot.
Not that I need to sell him anymore, but 750 plus snaps on both sides, both tackle spots is phenomenal, especially for a guy that is that big. When you can kind of have that versatility of being able to work on both sides. I know that doesn't seem too difficult to most people, but it's difficult for anybody, much less a guy that came into camp as a 425-pound lineman. Like I have no qualms with Holland Pierce.
Yeah. When I watched this film, I was watching Kyle Malone guy film, and I was seeing an offensive lineman that was always running down the field right after Kyle Malone guy. It was him at 6'7". He was doing it. And if I really strongly advise people just turn on the film, and he's just got the look of an offensive lineman. It almost looks like when you watch, Willie Anderson, he's got the big neck roll, and he is a downhill mean offensive lineman. And quite frankly, when you just look at edge rushers, he makes dudes look tiny. Like this dude takes one step and the edge rusher takes 5 steps and he's still there. So I'm with you. I think the size is very rare for you to get this, and a guy who's been this, long of a starter here in round 5. So I'm a fan of him. And for people saying, "Oh, you can wait to get him later,"
and realistically, he won't be here.
No,
he
will likely be a fit.
I don't see anybody else really inspiring anywhere else.
You can make the argument for some guys here. I really believe
we're at the point where you can make an argument for
mostly anyone,
pretty much everybody.
Like Robert Longbeamer, another guy that I like at corner, but I'm not making an argument after we just picked Noah Williams. I think that. Listen, I feel. I know I said I wouldn't stand on the table for anybody, but I said I wouldn't. Listen, Colin Pierce is a guy, man.
Yeah.
He's a dude. And I think that
I'm sold on it. I think,
Yeah.
I think we can pull the trigger on it. I feel good.
All right.
about it.
you will not be regretting it if Orlando Brown needs to miss a game or two.
I was going to say, if
won't
you're
be
sitting there and
regretting
you got him and Cody Ford as your backups, I feel like you're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah.
All right, I'm good with it. Colin Pierce, the
Fucking
5th
man.
round, 150.
Well, wait, let's see what the poll says.
Yeah.
What are the poll,
Oh,
what are the
let me,
polls
let me,
saying?
yeah, let's see
Let's
what.
see what the poll is saying. I want to hear
Yeah.
from everybody else. And somebody said, Jacqueline and I said, will he go after folks who go after Burrow or risk a penalty to make defenses
Sure
think
hope
twice
so,
about him?
man.
He's nasty, man. He defends his guy through and through and through, man, all the time. I've seen that guy block somebody all the way to the sideline. He is just, you could tell how much the game means to him too, man. And you want those type of guys, man. I think Colin Pierce is definitely a no-brainer. So yeah,
I got no qualms with Colin Pierce at all.
No.
Yeah,
None.
I
None
think
at
that's
all.
a good pick.
That's where I stand. Daniel, where we at?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just putting it in. Most people, let's see what they say, but I think that this is going to be kind of a consensus pick for a Holland.
I don't stand on the table for many people, honestly. And the people that I've stood on the table for, respectfully, I think we can all agree. So far, I've panned out. Mine is Jermaine Burton. So far,
TBD.
TBD, and that's TBD.
TBD, yeah.
And we'll see. We're still waiting to see what Dwight McGlothern.
I think he played pretty good.
wanted
No,
to
he
see
played solid. I'm just
Yeah.
saying it's been a year. Like
he wind up being what, undrafted, and then he wind up.
he should not have been undrafted. I was there.
And then he wind up being a starter. He
Yeah.
wind up being a starter, albeit it was due to injuries, but he played well.
Polls got 71% Holland Pierce right now, 21 votes. And once again, we appreciate everybody voting.
We
Simply click it, and we're gonna be doing this every single
We
week.
got almost 300 people on the live, and we got 78 likes. If you guys could do us a huge favor, just give the video a like and subscribe to the channel if this is your first time here. Turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content. Admittedly, there's so many amazing content creators in the Bengals space that do this, that do so much content. But this is truly my favorite time of the year. So, yeah, for me, Holland Pierce.
Yeah, I think we're good. 67% right now, 24 votes. Holland Pierce it is.
Feels like a runaway election.
All right, cool.
All right,
good deal.
Wrap it up. I'm a fan of it.
I love that, man.
All right.
Now we got a little bit before we pick again. But we picked pretty close back to back 90 or 190, 193 with our a little extra.
Guys, let me just say, Logan, Evan, Daniel, our scouts, you guys have made me very, very happy with the draft. Seriously.
Great.
I think every pick, for the most
Nick
part,
Nash.
every pick I really believe is just hear me out. I believe every pick that we've made is one that's going to make this team better. I genuinely
even if it's not sexy.
It doesn't feel like these picks that we've made. And honestly, the Bengals have to be intentional because of the lesser amount of picks they have. It feels like every pick, 100%, every pick that they made, it feels like that's a steal for the Eagles. Let me just say that. Roger Longer, he's going to be a very good player. But I feel like it was the right pick. I feel like it was the right pick.
Oh yeah, I like it a lot. I mean, we're this later in the draft. I know 5th round.
Quinn Ewers goes to the Bills. I like that for them. I love that for them.
Cowboys.
Cowboys. That's fun too.
I saw some of my drafts that hadn't gone undrafted. I was like,
never know. There's a lot of good running backs, man. It's kind of hard to argue with any rankings of them. But he should be drafted. He's a good player. He's a great player.
I mean, I'm happy with our draft so far.
I'm very happy with this draft. I think if the Bengals actually take our advice and they listen to this, I think
the trade down was huge.
The trade down was huge.
That was massive.
I would have loved to have gotten Aeneas Peebles or get some sort of interior help. It sucked that both Peebles and Puegas and also
your boy Caldwell.
They all three of those guys went before we could pick again. But that's the game you play, right?
I think, and we'll see who's on the board.
You know what, Daniel? I wanted to say this. There's a guy at wide receiver. But you know what? Before I even say that.
Wide receiver.
From Colorado.
Oh, interesting.
I really like him.
Interesting.
Has the return. I think he was the best receiver at Colorado. I think that a lot of people got a lot of hype, but I think he was the best wide receiver.
There's some good receivers here, man.
Not Jimmy Horn Jr.
Yeah, your boy.
LeJonte Wester.
He's fine.
I think LeJonte Wester was the best receiver at Colorado. And I think that you see the chip that you see how much it also means to him. And, he's a guy that kind of fell behind the radar. But there's a guy that I'm actually going to stand on the table because I didn't think he would be here in this spot. And I actually feel very, very overcome with great deal of emotion when saying this really quickly.
Let's see.
The Bengals were one of the first teams to talk to him at the Combine. He goes by the name of Jonah Monheim. I think he's your center of the future. I understand people talk about Matt Lee. I get it. I think this guy could be the center of the future for the Bengals. He has the size, he has the production that you look for. Like I said, I think that if we're really serious about building up this offensive line, he has played many different spots amongst the offensive line, left tackle, center, right guard. I think that Jonah Monheim is going to be one of those guys that's going to wind up being a long-term starter in the NFL. His true pass block grade, you can pick that up, only a 66, run block grade 71. But again, I think that this is a guy that I feel very, very good about.
Yeah, I like Jonah Monheim a lot in general. I think, where you talk about him being the center of the future, I mean, I don't know if there's anything saying he can't come in and be the left guard day one. Obviously that'd be probably a bigger jump for him. It's one of the few positions he hasn't necessarily played, but he's played them all. You might as well let him try the one he hasn't at this point. But again, I'm a big fan of drafting offensive linemen towards the back in the draft with some upside. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Obviously, his grades aren't anything crazy anywhere, but he's a guy that's continuously moved around. He's done so many things. At the absolute very worst, you're drafting a 6th-round pick here that can be your backup everywhere. I don't see there's anything wrong with that strategy at all.
It's not a sexy pick, but it's a pick that again, if Ted Karras has to miss time, again, people forget Ted Karras is 33?
Yeah.
He's getting up there in age, man.
Yeah.
You need to have a guy for the future, and we could all want Matt Lee to turn into that, and we could all be rooting for him to do that because he did look good in spots.
But he's a late round draft.
He's a late round, and this is a late round draft pick, but this is a guy.
You got to take more swings. You can't just say we have
coexist. So that's the fun part about it. It's not like they're both center only players.
Right.
Monheim's moved around. He can be, at the very least, he can be your swing everything, which is awesome. That is the guy I was going to talk about there. So I'm glad you just pulled him up. Just in general, I talked about all the linebackers I liked more than Jack Kaiser. Teddy Buchanan, 9.62 RAS, 4.6 40-yard dash. You need some athleticism at the linebacker position. He's one of the better athletic linebackers in this class that has the production to back it up.
And here's the thing too about this, guys. We pick again, in 4 picks?
3 picks. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
And so we feel very good about. I just think that there's a reason why Jonah Monheim is considered one of the best prospects on the board show at the spot. And I feel like this is. I feel like there's the defensive tackle out of Nebraska.
Yes.
That's in 3 spots, 2 spots.
Yes.
After this pick.
All right.
I feel very, very overcome with I need to stand on the table here, and I need to say that I think that Jonah Monheim is a pick that all Bengals fans might be like, oh, another offensive lineman. But we'll be saying another offensive lineman if a guy goes out with an injury. We'll be seeing another offensive lineman if Joe Burrow is getting hit. Like now you feel if you need to bench a guy or if a guy needs to miss some time, you feel a little bit better about your depth here. And for me, I feel like the Bengals' depth at interior offensive lineman has been tested the last couple of years. And I understand they brought back Jackson Kirkland. I understand they brought back Cody Ford. Even though Cody Ford showed some promise, Jackson Kirkland is not making me feel overcome with we're set at the offensive line for me.
No, for sure. People are asking about linebackers.
I want to bring up another guy who's just at the top right there by Teddy, and that's Jay Higgins.
I love Jay Higgins.
And I want to bring up Jay Higgins.
Though.
That's the thing. I want to see the testing when he does his pro day stuff. But that's the thing, right? Is you got a guy who's 6'2", 232, and he's 23, but he's had 2 back-to-back really good years of linebacker playing the Big Ten.
And in coverage.
Over 100 tackles,
grades.
elite coverage grades in back-to-back years. Missed tackle rate is excellent. 15 coverage stops, 4 interceptions, only 1 touchdown allowed. Also over 100 slot snaps played in each of the last 2 years. So can survive out there. Probably you don't want him guarding any of the faster lateral agility wide receivers coming out of the slot, but when they come out and kind of heavier personnel, you can definitely feel comfortable about him kind of handling those tight end duties.
Yeah, I was so high on Jay Higgins for a while, and then he tested so much worse than I was.
Well, that's why we're at the back end of round 6, right?
It was dude, I hope he runs better at his pro day, but he tested like crap.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean he's a bad player. That doesn't mean he's not athletic. It just his straight line speed probably isn't great.
Probably more instincts than athleticism.
And which you can survive on just as much as your athleticism, especially at linebacker in the league.
Right.
Yeah. I think the only other guy, like I said, I like a lot of these guys. I think all 1, 2, 3, 4 could be guys that. I mean, Jamon, he transferred from Georgia last year, and he had a phenomenal year at Kentucky. This is one of the best athletes, I feel like, in this linebacker class. I like all these guys. The one guy I think that I'm happy if he comes here or the next pick, I'm such a fan of Ty Robinson, man. I think that this dude is a guy. I think the Bengals are really going to like him as well. 6'5", 6'6". This is a dude.
6 sacks this year.
6 sacks this year. He's an older guy, I believe 24, but he played 5 years, in the Big Ten. The Bengals typically like some of these Big Ten guys. And the thing that's fascinating is at 6'5", he's played everywhere. He's played nose tackle. He's played outside, and he's flashed outside. And for me, I look at a guy who I think can step in day one and just be a productive pro, right? He was, I believe, the second strongest guy at the NFL Combine, benched, 28 reps. The rest of these, defensive tackles couldn't even do that. And this is a dude, realistically, you could see him get snaps on the edge. But I think he's a guy I'd be so confident, just as my DT5 this year, get some couple snaps if guys get injured. And I'm confident this dude just going to be a very, very good pro. We saw him do it at the Senior Bowl, right? Against some of the best offensive linemen, easily worked his way on the edge and in the interior. So Ty Robinson, I look at the amount of snaps this dude has played. He's played great competition. He was a captain at Nebraska. I'm just so confident when I look at the rest of the defensive tackles. I like Howard Cross, but if we're going defensive tackle, I think it's got to be Ty Robinson, or you just kind of punt on the position this year. And
I want to make a really important point here, because I think we might be kind of missing the forest for the trees here. You're paying $163 million to your offense right now, and you're paying $100 million to your defense. And you've walked into this draft, and we've spent 2 picks on the offensive line.
Yep.
You need bodies on defense.
Yeah,
you do. You've invested a lot of draft resources, a lot of cash resources, cap resources to your offense. You have to stock the defensive cupboards, especially if you're not going to get elite or high quality players. You have to take a lot of swings at the middle tier free agents like the Von Bells, the Cheeto Wouziers, the DJ Readers, and that applies to the draft just as much as it does free agency. As much as I would love to add a third offensive lineman in this draft, I can't sit here and honestly say we haven't added to the defensive tackle room. We haven't added to the linebacker room. How do we feel comfortable about where you're at there?
The thing that I'll say about that is what I agree. I totally agree. I would like more defensive players. That doesn't mean we shouldn't draft the better players. Not that they necessarily
we're splitting hairs in the 6th round.
Yes, that is a fantastic point.
Right.
But just in general, like you look at the defensive tackles, you're gonna probably at this point, BJ Hill's gonna play, Slatton's gonna play, Jenkins gonna play, Jackson's going to play.
Ideally.
Yes, ideally. But then again, are we going to draft – like since we didn't draft them early, is there a point to draft players with worse draft capital than the guys you invested in last year? So are you going to be investing a time into your 4th rounder, 5th rounder over your 3rd rounders last year? Maybe, maybe not. But so like when it gets past that point, if you're not drafting the DT early, then it gets kind of like – then I can see it, because then it's like the path to playing time isn't obvious for a non-elite tier player. And then, yes, we didn't add defense. James Pierce is day 1 starter. Mabuka can be day 1 starter next year. Noah Williams comes in. Like, we didn't necessarily do too much to the now defense outside of James Pierce, which is a phenomenal, big, massive addition. So let's not overlook that. And Ukuba, I think, can play. But it's just those, as much as I want a great defense tackle, and I still think there's some that I will talk about, but it's just the playing time for them isn't as obvious now that we've didn't take the elite ones. That's my whole thing with it.
Yeah.
Why aren't we talking more about Vernon Broughton?
Yeah. To be honest, I don't know much about Vernon. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie to you. It doesn't look like KFF does either.
When I look at it, it looks like he didn't play necessarily. He didn't always get all the most opportunities to speak, but when he did produce. He had a sack in the Ohio State game. I don't know. I'm just trying to.
I'll have to look more.
I think with him, like I can pull up some stats with this guy. He's one that I remember. I was watching their other defense tackle, Alfred Collins, and a big dude. Vernon is kind of a different guy. He's somebody that necessarily isn't going to be your big nose tackle. Like they had Alfred Collins, and I actually like the rotation they had. He would play nose. He'd be the big run stuffer, and Vernon would kind of be brought in for the pass down. So it's kind of like if you want, I don't actually know his size. So it seems 6'4", 305.
Go back to that.
So he's more of the like Alabama defensive end of like, hey, we want a run stuffing, 2-gapping guy who lets the linebackers kind of fill and spill and plug up the holes. I don't know how well that necessarily fits what the Bengals are going to want to do. And again, you have this room full of run stuffers, right? Yeah. Like do we need to keep adding the same skill set? Because like Logan said, eventually, how do you get to playing time? Well, you get to playing time by having a better pass rush skill set than the top 4 defensive tackles, which right now isn't a very high bar to clear.
No.
As much as I love Chris Jenkins
vote?
and his outlook.
39% Jay Higgins, 27% Jonah Mahim, and I believe 10% Ty Robinson. So they say take Jay Higgins. I don't know where the poll went, but the people said Jay Higgins.
I look at this and I say, I don't know how I don't add linebacker or defensive. Again, I'm not sitting here saying like we need to override the early rounds because we have positional need, but we're at 6th round here and we've got a bunch of guys we can make arguments for. And I sit here and go, we've already dedicated a lot of resources to the offense and we've kind of neglected other positions that are missing. Linebacker 3, defensive tackle 5.
See how this Pratt situation plays out still, so he's still hanging around. Not that should change it much, but if you're talking about playing time, then now we're drafting linebacker 4 or 5.
Well, Daniel,
I think he's probably gone.
I would assume, but I also assumed that weeks ago, and he's still here. You know.
So the people said Higgins. For me personally, if I was here, I'd probably go if we like Mahim, I'd probably go Mahim for the sole reason that I personally like Buchanan, Dumas, and Smell. And I think that Higgins is probably the better linebacker, but I'd be confident all 3 of these dudes if Higgins were to come off the board in 3 picks.
I think that's the thing is I think you like 3 or 4 guys at linebacker, you wait on linebacker, and you either attack defensive tackle or interior line. And I just think D tackle is much more of a need. Maybe he goes into rookie mini camp and goes from 3rd team to 2nd team to 1st team to playing. I mean, we've seen it before with other guys. Like you can surprise guys. Like you get the opportunity. And then you're just looking for your pass rush. How does he get out there? Okay, maybe he goes out there next to BJ Hill for 10 snaps a game on pass rush downs.
All right. So what I'm going to do, I think we'll go Jay Higgins here. The people spoke Jay Higgins.
Are you sure, Daniel?
What?
You're Robinson guy. I mean, make his case first, guy. Make your case for your guy.
No. I would make the case for him all after as well. Like I think that
because I want to make the case for Jonah Mahim in 2 picks.
Okay, so I'm going to add a couple more names into the list because we're picking 3 picks, and I want to get other names out there. But you guys continue.
Well, I think it's tough. Do you think any of those 3 names should be included with these 3 guys? I'm pretty sold on the 3 guys we have.
As in what 3 guys?
Both Jay Higgins, Mahim, or Ty Robinson.
I think I think all those 3 guys are good. I think, obviously
I could be sold on Buchanan too.
Yeah, Buchanan's awesome. I have 2 defense tackles I'd like to talk about as well.
What about a trade back?
I don't think we need to pick up extra 7th round picks.
All right. Who would be the guys you're discussing?
Okay, so for my 2 D tackles, first up, again, I know I was gonna save from 193, but since we're all kind of trying to figure out how we want these last couple picks to go, the first one I'd like to bring up was Thor Griffith from Louisville. The thing with Thor, he came from Harvard, which is always kind of cool in general. Harvard football player, smart guy. There's a lot of questions about how he would transfer to the bigger schools. Yes, his numbers were down a little bit, but it's his first year against bigger competition. He's a defensive tackle that has an 84 run defense grade and a 71 true pass rushing grade. Like that's a solid base for a 6th round defensive tackle. He's got some pass rushing
like
juice.
Jamari Caldwell.
Yeah, he's got more size. He's 6'3", 320. So he's not some tweener. He can be a guy that stays in the middle of the field and just kind of does a little bit of everything for you. Again, the numbers are a little down, taking the step up in competition, but the numbers are still at a good rate for a defensive player in general. And that doesn't mean there's not more upside there still with the production he had at Harvard. And the other guy that I'm going to bring up is way down on the board here, Jared Harrison Hunt from SMU. And again, I found this guy first when I was watching Elijah Roberts, who I also absolutely love. But again, he's going to be more of your pass rushing interior defensive lineman, 6'4", just under 300 pounds, with again an 83 grade in true pass sets when rushing the quarterback. He's a guy that has 56 pressures over the last 2 years from the interior. Just a guy like I know it's hard to rank every player, but he's nowhere near the 325th player in the draft. You don't have a defensive tackle put up over 50 pressures over a 2-year span, a 10 sack over 2-year span, and just not be a draftable graded player. It's just when we're looking at a guy that can maybe find a way in the field early, it could be, in the interior with a true pass rushing upside there to where, there's an obvious strength that he has that just a lot of people don't possess in this range. Those are my two.
Yeah. Man.
I still really like Jonah Monheim though too. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I think. All right, here what we'll do.
But Evan's point about the defense is
Let's
totally
go.
valid.
So we'll go Jonah, and then we'll debate for the last two. I think that we're here in 2 picks. I pray that
you're going to get any of the linebackers that
we're gonna get anybody we just discussed
Right.
probably still. Yeah, we weren't drafting Lambert Smith, and we weren't drafting. Tosh Brooks could play.
And
but
I
we already
like
drafted.
having these back-to-back picks here. So I think the trade back
Okay, so
definitely.
now we
helped.
reset.
I
Jonah
think it's
Monheim-
between
we took Jonah Monheim.
Higgins and Ty Robinson. For me personally, I think that you do need depth at the linebacker position. I totally understand. I do think that there's a lot better talent all around. But I think that you're going to be able to get one of these guys also in undrafted free agency. I think Smell is the guy that I would totally be circling. A huge athlete and a guy who just flies around the field. He was, the co-partner to Jalen Walker. He was not their middle linebacker, but he's the guy he matched up against tight ends. And he's a guy I think that he is best when he's attacking the screen game, wide receiver screens, running back screens. He is best going downhill. He diagnosed them well. I'd be okay passing on a Jay Higgins to get one of these guys in undrafted free agency just because I'm so confident in Ty Robinson just being a good pro. Like I said, I want a defensive tackle. We need defense tackle number 5. We saw how last year kind of played out, right? Quickly, BJ Hill got hurt. Quickly, these guys got hurt, and we were having to rely on these younger guys right away. I think Ty Robinson is a guy I'd be confident relying on him right away. And I think he brings you something different that you don't have in this room. You don't have a 6'5" guy at the defensive tackle position that can play all these spots. And like I said, he played in the Big Ten. Cincinnati loves these guys that played in the Big Ten. He played some of the best teams. And like I said, team captain, I'm just sold on Ty Robinson. And I think he's a guy that I've loved this entire process. And I think that it's a realistic pick for the Cincinnati Bengals, especially since the way I look at it, we didn't address defensive tackle. So I think I'd be willing to take a chance on him. And I'm much more confident betting on, the backups that the Bengals have, especially if Pratt is there, then I'd be confident in what the Bengals potentially add in free agency. So I'm in on Ty Robinson. I don't know if you guys are fully in on that.
And people are saying Cam Love Jesus says, why take a center when we have Ted and Matt? We talked about it. Ted Karras is 33 years old. He's much more likely towards the end of his career. Matt Lee hasn't really proved anything.
I mean, he's played like 20 snaps, guys. And
Jonah Monheim has literally played almost every position amongst offensive line. You get the offensive line versatility there with that guy. And he's a guy that I personally feel like he will actually develop into a starter.
We just can't we can't keep going. Oh, they picked someone in the 5th round or the 6th round or the 7th round a year or two ago, and they seem to like him when they talk about him in camp. Like, they talk nice about everybody in camp, and they are 5th and 6th and 7th round picks coming off of severe injuries in some cases, like DJ Ivy. Like, people were like, oh, but yeah, what do you need to take a corner for? They like Fig Newton. Okay, you've still lost a corner in Mike Hilton, and now you're about to lose 2 more and maybe a third the year after that. Like, you can have one 5th-year guy and hope he turns out, but you still need 3 more corners. It's the same way. I don't want to sit there and say they have a 5th rounder that they picked and they like him. We should not pick these guys. I wouldn't even say that about McKinley Jackson right now. Yeah. If you try to tell me anybody that was a nose tackle style of player like a Thor Griffith, I wouldn't go, well, I won't pick them because I've got McKinley Jackson who played a couple hundred snaps and probably not even that. And
depth is
picked in the 4th round, right?
Depth is important.
Right.
All right. You guys sold on Robinson, or you guys want
good on
Jay?
Robinson.
I have one other guy I'd like
Real
to
quick.
bring up that I've talked to you about. Bengals met with him as well. Colin Oliver, defensive end from Oklahoma State. The tricky part with him is he didn't play much this year. 2 games, 46 pass rushing opportunities. In those 46 opportunities, 10 hurries. Insane, first and foremost. But again, he's undersized, 6'2", 240. Yeah. He's that hybrid outside linebacker, true edge defender. In 2023, he literally split his time 49% on the outside as a true outside linebacker and 51% directly on the edge. He's done both. That's kind of exactly that Viper role that kind of Al Golden has talked about a lot. He can apply the pressure. He's not the best in coverage in general. That's not really his game. He's an athletic, kind of think like Nolan Smith a little bit, a smaller guy that is just super athletic. Again, this year is tough because he played extremely well in his first 2 games. But then continue to
He
look
was
at
good.
2023 and 2022. That's 27 hurries. That's 28 hurries. A 31% pass rush win rate over the last 2 years is absolutely absurd.
That's bonkers.
If he played this year, there's no doubt in my mind he would be off the board by now. Regardless, if he wasn't coming off an injury, he would probably be gone. He's just a guy that is very different than this kind of style of edge rushers they like. But he's a little bit of a hybrid. Al Golden kind of likes that hybrid. He's a guy with pass rushing chops, with pass rushing production in an elite conference. He just, he's more of a pure pass rusher again, which is kind of similar-ish to James Pierce as well. But again, Bengals just need pass rushing depth. Malik talked about it when we selected James Pierce an hour and 45 minutes ago. We need people, if Trey Hendrickson were to go down, if Trey Hendrickson were to leave, who the hell is going to get to the quarterback? And this is for a 6th-round pick. I just think there's, again, just like I talked about with Hunt, there's so much, there's a clear skill set, and there's just an upside and a path to playing time. And just, again, the Bengals met with him. I just think there's a lot of things kind of connecting him to us.
Yeah, I like him.
I almost forgot about him. Shame on me.
No, I like him. I think, and this is about the time you get him because I believe it was, I don't know if it was his knee or his foot.
I think it was his knee.
But
you really talked very compelling about. I mean, both of you guys are making good arguments.
I'm good with either one.
The Ty
of those
Robinson
guys.
one is
I'm with Robinson.
Yeah.
I think you need a different flavor of defensive tackle, and I think he can give you that.
And he can kind of be your bigger edge defender if you want him to replace Trey Hendrickson on these obvious rundowns.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, beautiful. Ty it is, and where's Ty at? Down a little ways.
Could go to defensive tackle.
Yeah, it's probably a little bit easier.
Faster way, yeah.
Safety.
That's safety. Oh,
Daniel's all over the place right now.
all over the place.
The pressure's on.
Quit drinking. There he is.
There he
Robinson.
is.
43.
Final pick in the Bengals draft.
All right. We finally got the defensive tackle.
And
Let's pull up our picks.
you look at the draft, man. How does everybody feel about it? I mean, do we feel like we went a little early with the Damian Martinez pick a little bit? I think now hindsight, looking back on it, we probably could have waited. Maybe.
The only thing I agree. The only issue is, and I wish we'll go back and see. I just wasn't sold on anybody else that was there. I guess Jack Kaiser was the other
that
name,
was the
right?
big thing. But that was I'm very uninspired by that. I think this is a lot of like B- to B pluses. And I think it's a lot of solid picks. I don't think there's a lot that you're like, oh man, the value met the need, met a great player who fell.
The thing with Martinez too, you gotta remember that's we elected to go with Noah Williams, which we all completely agreed on. And then every person we wanted just happened to go right before us. It's not like Damian Martinez was plan A. We're taking Damian Martinez, no doubt about it. I mean, Barrett Carter went off the board. Hassan went off the board. Pagais went off the board. Caldwell went off the board. Like those are 4 players that went off the board in an 8-pick span. That's the stuff you can't really predict. And yes, maybe we could have reallocated that to a defensive pick. That's totally like a fine thought process. But it doesn't make that defensive player better than Damian Martinez is. Like Damian Martinez is still going to be. He has a role. Damian Martinez is going to score touchdowns in 2025 for the Cincinnati Bengals.
The Bengals have been bad in short yardage situations for like 4 or 5 seasons on defense and offense.
Yeah. There's more ways to. I know, like we're all offense. There's still. I'm just saying in general, like in the draft, in the thought process, there's still, no matter how bad the defense is, no matter what you want to do, there's still more ways to improve this team than just drafting defensive players.
Good call. Whoops.
Still working out the kinks.
All right, there we go. A lot easier.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to love it because we took some guys earlier than PFF's They also haven't updated their board recently. It was a couple weeks ago, maybe pre-combine, but yeah, I know they still need to.
They gave us a B.
Gave us a B minus.
I knew they wouldn't like the Tate Ratledge pick because they had him ranked.
I love Jonah Monheim.
Yeah, Jonah Monheim. Thank you, Logan, for saying
I like Jonah Monheim a lot.
Man, I'm a fan of this, and I think that it's definitely not a sexy draft, but I think he's an immediate starter in the next 2 years. I think Tate Ratledge, you're drafting him to be an immediate starter, and both of these guys, I'm very.
They will start for you by next year.
Yes,
absolutely. By next year.
Yes,
Damian Martinez is going to co-start right now.
And a Holland Pierce. I think that if you want him, and to be honest, Malik, I think there's a real world where if you're here, you entertain taking him there in a real draft. I think that there's a chance if you're confident in him there, and I think that I'm happy with this. Like people can be upset, and I think the one point you can make is defensive tackle early. But I think that this is a realistic option that the Bengals should be looking at, specifically the fact that they have 4 guys on their team, 3 guys that they can say, hey, you're going to be getting serious starting minutes or starting snaps this year. I said
You know
minutes.
what I think, man? I think that you left this draft with 5 potential starters.
Yes.
That's what I think. I think you left this draft with 5 potential starters. If not, like to their point, if it's not this year, definitely by next year. Yeah. I think Cooper will slot in at free safety after
week 1.
After
well, he's respectfully, he is, I think, a first-round talent. Like I think that when you look at these other safeties, Malachi Starks didn't have the ball production he had. And when you look at,
I'm not going that far.
Well, he's a top 50 player for me.
He is totally a top 50
player. I think he's definitely
too small.
Well,
too small, not a consistent enough tackler.
Hear
like,
me out, though. Yeah, I agree with those points. I don't agree that he's a first round.
That's where I got to push back.
But people didn't think Jesse Bates also was a first round talent. He evolved his game over time, right? And he got better at the issues that people thought. People thought Jesse a little smaller. People thought Jesse Bates might have tackling issues in the NFL. And these things are correct. Well, you hope they're correctable. But I do think that could still be a starter. I think that I think what you're bringing him in to do, to be that field general, that guy that's going to be able to high point the ball, find the ball in the air. I think that's a spot where you feel good about. Totally. Honestly, I can make the case and say you got a couple of even more starters. But I leave this drive saying in the 6th round, the Bengals have a guy that I look at that for whatever reason is not going as high on these PFF mock drafts. Yeah. But I think Jonah Monheim is going to wind up being a very, very good pro, man.
I need to reiterate again and I see people saying the same thing in the comments. I worked for PFF for a number of years. These grades are based solely on how they reflect on PFF's board. And the Trevor Sikkema, who's the lead draft analyst for PFF himself, would tell you that those rankings that are up right now do not accurately reflect what he's talking about now, because just the other day he was talking about Jack Sawyer being a potential back end 1st round, middle of the 2nd round guy, and he is not ranked there. They absolutely have guys who are not ranked from smaller schools that still need to test, still do pro days, still need to get to their evaluation. So this is not their final board. And you'll see these. I bet that Radlich moves 15, 20 spots up their board from 89 where they have him, because I don't think that's really likely. I think, again, a lot of these are also influenced, especially when it comes to PFF. Positional value matters a lot to PFF when they are doing their board. They are one of the leaders in quarterbacks, wide receivers, edge defenders, corners. You take those early, you're going to game the system. So we could just take quarterback every single pick and get an A. And we walk out with an A+ and look how good we are, pat everybody on the back. But that's not realistic. And we're doing this as we are, trying to be as realistic about approaching this as possible. So don't read too much into a lot of these grades. There's a linebacker that PFF has ranked 250 that Dane Brugler for The Athletic has ranked as 80th overall. So that's a 170 pick disparity. That's catching up in the process, and we're going to see other consensus boards catch up to PFF, catch up to Dane Brugler, catch up to each other as everyone kind of trades information and catches up on the draft.
One thing that's kind of shocking to me is how many 6.9 Bengals fans who's every war room. I think he thinks he can draft better than everyone, including us. But he's like, we reach on all of our picks. I don't feel that way.
Well, look at who's on the board, because if you just look at this right now versus outside of when we were picking, I feel like every single pick that we made was perfectly reasonable. And when we didn't feel like there was somebody who was worthy of the pick, we traded back.
I'm sorry to cut you off. I just feel like I walk away from this draft feeling like I don't know why. If you would walk away from the James Pierce Jr. pick feeling unhappy, I don't know why you would. You literally, we're the same team that literally was saying we need pass rush, we need help on the edge, and I don't feel like we reached for him because I genuinely think he was the best player available too. At that point, I think that's why we got an A there. But I think you walk away feeling, when Trey Hendrickson retires, or walks away, whatever, depending on what happens with his situation with Cincinnati, you feel like you would like to think that you drafted a guy that could be your long-term defensive end one for the future. So
I think the main, it just feels like a very different mock draft than a lot of people have expected. But it when I sat here and I was thinking about it and I had the discussion with Evan earlier, yes, we could have went defensive tackle. Yes, we could have brought in another edge. But when would you like us to do that? Yes, we took James Smith Jr., phenomenal player. And then we got Tate Ratledge, immediate day one starter at a massive position of need. And then we all loved Andrew Makuba. He's a great player, another position of need. Nobody really likes Geno Stone. He fits Al Golden perfectly. Okay, who of those guys did you want to replace? Because if you're telling me you want to draft a round 4, 5, 6 edge rusher, I won't fault you at all. But again, it goes back to the direct conversation I had with Evan. Where is a round 4 edge rusher fitting in?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Where is a round 5, 4 defensive tackle fitting in? And yes, we could just draft defensive linemen in those spots to say, hey, look, we drafted defensive linemen, but that's not the point of the draft. We want to draft players like we did. Noah Williams has a future starting job as soon as next year, could even work into a job this year. The Bengals love the draft early. We got corners coming off the book next year. He can slot in right away. Damian Martinez can come in right now. And like I said, he will score touchdowns for the Cincinnati Bengals next year. Holland Pierce might not have that immediate production, but when you're talking about pure upside and that pick, it's higher than anybody available. It's higher than some of the people we drafted beforehand. Jonah Mannheim, again, versatile offensive lineman that could play a number of positions, that could honestly come in and start at left guard right away if you really wanted. And again, Ty Robinson. Now we finally got your defensive lineman. But again, it's with the purpose, the value, the positions, his flexibility across the defensive line all met something we're looking for. We can't just draft stuff because that's what we need. If there's no clear path to playing time, if there's no obvious role for them, you can't just take them for the sake of filling in the room.
Well, if you hate the Tate Ratledge pick and you say, well, you just reached on that, and that's the one I really have a problem with, because, I mean, if we want to argue over C and C+ picks, okay, like it could be either way. But for the Ratledge pick, yeah, okay, maybe we reached 10 or 15 picks. But when we were talking about what's the best player available there, it was tackles who were going to be flipping sides of the line and who had never played guard. It was
other
defensive tackles
and defensive ends.
Okay, we look at defensive tackles and defensive ends. The best defensive tackle had played 200 snaps a year over the last 3 years. So, like, do we say best player available in the sense that their ceiling is the best player? Because I would argue the guard who fits right in to be an immediate starter from the SEC, who gave up 1 sack and over 800 pass blocking snaps, who've already played next to your starting tackle, sounds like a pretty damn good, easy fit to a starter. And sure, there's not all pro or Pro Bowl upside there, but you get a damn good guard that you feel good about for the next 4 or 5 years, and you got to stop worrying about it versus we got to take the chance on, yes, maybe that defensive tackle from Tennessee is better, but the guy's played 600 snaps in 3 seasons. Yeah. Do you want to take a bet on that? Do you want to take a bet on a tackle who you like now playing not only a different position, but then switching the footwork entirely and doing it backwards on the opposite side of the line? Like, yes, those guys have higher ceilings, but are they the best player available based on ceiling, based on what they can give you? Because I can make the argument that from immediate need, the guy who's played the position you need, next to the tackle you already drafted, and is already the best pass blocking guard that's there, who gave up 1 sack in the SEC in 2 years. I again, if you wanted to go a different route, I hear you. Like, if you want to say we reached 5-10 picks on Ratledge, yeah, I'll hear you. But I think putting him at like spot 90 and saying he deserves to go middle back into 3rd round, I don't see it that way.
Totally. And I think my final take on this draft is I think that the alternate reality of you not taking a pass rusher in James Pierce, you leave yourself very susceptible to reaching on a guy in round 2 and forcing yourself to take that. And that's where, if I look at this Bengals team and not just 3 years down the road, but this season, I'm concerned if it's Trey Hendrickson and a 2nd or 3rd round edge rusher. Here, you're going to have your pick of James Pierce, potentially Mike Green, potentially Shamar Stewart, potentially Donovan. There are going to be pass rushers here. And I think it would be a huge mistake with the strength of this class to pass on a Pierce, Scourton, Donovan for a Malachi Starks or even a Walter Nolan. So I think pass rusher, James Pierce.
It's just easy sometimes to forget as we go through the process. The NFL season, it feels like it was so long ago. So we start to forget, and you go through the draft process and you see all these other teams drafting these fun players. And the Bengals haven't had a non-sexy draft in a while, but they kind of need a draft that's going to reset them. And, the trenches is where it starts, man. Trenches is where it starts. You need more pressure on the quarterback, and you need to keep your quarterback upright for the future. Well, listen, we've been live for 2 hours.
Wow.
For 2 hours. This was the first State of the Jungle War Room 1. Appreciate the guys staying out this late. We want to thank you guys for tuning in as well. If you guys could do us a huge favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live Upper Low content from the TWSN studios. Boys, I think this was a successful State of the Jungle War Room episode 1. Again, we will have War Room episodes from now all the way up until the NFL draft. I'm sure our draft boards will take many different twists and turns. And guess what? We'll have discussions. We'll agree to disagree. And we'll be talking through every single pick with you guys. But just realize we are looking at it from the lens of the Bengals and sort of how to help them for the future. So we'll see how War Room episode 2 shakes out. We hope that you guys join us next week. And until next time.